Chapter 510. The training ground became the stage for Qin Wentian to perform. Countless people were staring at him, causing those who passed the test of the 9 great sects to be reduced to mere foils. The countenances of the experts from the 6 great powers were all extremely heavy. An expert from the Yin clan roared, "Kill him! My Yin clan will bestow a celestial phenomenon ascendant cultivation art to whoever kills him. My Windrock aristocrat clan will bestow a Windrock innate art that grants boundless might, allowing one to transform into a Windrock, soaring through the heavens and earth with unparalleled speed." An expert from the Windrock aristocrat clan roared. My Golden Fire aristocrat clan will bestow a heavenly flame. After refining it, a fire seed will be born in your bloodline, granting you boundless might. Your attacks will be imbued with the power of fire. An expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan roared. The experts from the 6 great sects all spoke one after another. All of them were willing to bestow treasures as long as Qin Wentian could be killed. From this, one could see how deep their hatred for him was. The eyes of the experts in the training ground shone with a bright light as they stared at Qin Wentian. Right now, this young man was like a treasure trove. As long as they killed him, they would be able to obtain all sorts of treasures. There were many experts in the training ground, including some who passed the test of the 9 great sections. If they all attacked together, they would definitely be able to kill Qin Wentian here. However, no one took the lead. This was especially so when Qin Wentian turned his gaze over, giving off an immense pressure. It was as though if anyone dared to make a move, the spear in his hands would be the first to kill that person. At this moment, from the Great Earth sect, there was a young man with a fiery glow in his eyes. His silhouette flickered as he appeared beside an expert from the Great Earth sect, whispering something into his ears. In an instant, that expert from the Great Earth sect stared at the training grounds as he transmitted his voiceover. "Is this true? How would I dare to lie to an elder?" That person replied seriously. Momentarily, the elder from the Great Earth sect stared at Qin Wentian as a fiery light flashed in his eyes. "Little friend, you've already battled your way in all directions. Isn't it time for you to make your choice? If you're willing to join my Great Earth sect will definitely do our best to nurture you and treat you like a heaven's chosen of the Great Earth sect. You'll enjoy the same treatment as us. Among the 9 great sects, there's no one like that. What do you think?" At this moment, that expert from the Great Earth sect stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. His words caused the other experts from the 9 great sects to be taken aback. This person from the Great Earth sect actually dared to boast in such a manner? One must know that the so-called heaven chosen of Xian King City didn't even have the qualifications to enter the 9 great sections. From this, one could see what sort of characters the 9 great sects were. The heaven chosen among them were as dazzling as the sun in the sky, destined to enter the royal sacred sect. In fact, they were existences that radiated boundless radiance. Although Qin Wentian's performance today was outstanding, it was impossible for them to treat Qin Wentian as a genius. The geniuses of the 9 great sects could easily suppress anyone in the Xian King City. In the direction of the royal clan of Grand Shang, the eyes of the golden-eyed young man flickered with a golden light as an expression of interest appeared on his face. The Great Earth sect actually made such a decision? Most probably, things weren't so simple. "Your Highness." At this moment, a person turned his gaze onto the golden-eyed young man. This person was none other than the leader of the Xian King's manor. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying light, exuding a sense of nobility and imposingness. "Uncle." The golden-eyed young man called out. This expert from the Xian King's manor was none other than one of his uncles. This brat has no one in his eyes, daring to kill Shang-Chi in front of the royal clan of Grand Shang. Shang-Chi has the bloodline of the royal clan flowing in his veins. How can we spare him? I beseech your highness to help us kill this brat. The countenance of the expert from the Xian King's manor turned solemn as he spoke. Today the 9 great sects have arrived. It doesn't seem too good for me to interfere. The golden-eyed young man calmly spoke. I'm also feeling terrible about Shang-Chi's death. But in such a situation, it's truly not suitable for external forces to interfere in matters of the arena. Your Highness, this time around, there are a few outstanding geniuses from the Grand Shang Empire. If your highness is willing, I'm sure it wouldn't be too difficult for them to kill that brat. The expert from the Xian King's manor continued. His gaze turned to the silhouettes of the young men seated to the left of the golden-eyed young man. These people were from the royal clan of Granshang, and he knew that they were all extremely powerful geniuses. Since the 9 great sects came to the Xian King city to recruit disciples, they naturally would bring along their juniors. The royal clan was no exception. They have already joined the royal clan. The golden-eyed young man continued, hinting that there was no need for them to participate in the arena anymore. The words of the golden-eyed young man caused the expert from the Xian King's manor to silently curse in his heart. No matter what, they were from the same bloodline. Yet this prince actually didn't want to help them? Little Yu has already grown up. She's actually so beautiful, as expected of a princess of the Xian King's manor. The golden-eyed young man seemed to have said something irrelevant, causing the countenances of the expert from the Xian King's manor to flash with sharpness. He glanced at Shang Yu, understanding the meaning of the golden-eyed young man's words. The king's manor in the 7 king cities were all feudal vassals. Although they shared the same bloodline as the royal clan, they were actually separated by several generations of bloodline. The various feudal vassals were all extremely powerful, and there were even some characters who managed to enter the royal sacred sect. For example, the old king of the Xian King's manor had already become an elder-level character in the royal sacred sect. Even the current emperor of Granshang had to show him some respect. For the sake of stabilizing their position, the royal clan of Granshang would naturally have to use some methods. Shang Yu turned her head over, only to see that the golden-eyed young man was also looking at her. That resplendent gaze of his seemed to be able to see through the hearts of people, causing Shang Yu's countenance to turn pale. Your Highness, if you can kill that brat, I'm willing to send Shang Yu into the royal palace, allowing her to become your princess consort. The expert from the Xian King's manor spoke. He agreed to this matter not only because he wanted to kill Qin Wentian. If not, since Shang-Chi had already died, it wouldn't be wise to send Shang Yu away. The golden-eyed young man's talent was unparalleled, and he was conferred the title of king from a young age. Not only that, he had the right to inherit the throne. This was different from the other kings in the 9 king cities. He was a true descendant of the royal clan, and his title was the I King. The current emperor had 9 sons, and although this I King wasn't the strongest, his talent was definitely extremely terrifying. He had the potential to fight for the throne, and there was a very high possibility that he would inherit the royal authority of Granshang in the future. Since he personally brought up the matter of Shang Yu, the Xian King naturally had to understand the deeper meaning behind his words. In order to make the I King feel at ease, he could only suggest to marry Shang Yu into the I King's manor. When Shang Yu heard this, her countenance instantly turned pale. The golden-eyed I King glanced at her before nodding his head. I won't mistreat Princess Shang Yu. Shang Yu's heart was filled with sorrow. She didn't expect that her fate would be decided with a single sentence. Although she was a princess of the Xian King's manor, how could she control her own fate? Wasn't this a pitiful thing? For this matter, she actually hoped that nothing would happen to the young man in the training grounds. If Shang Tong had no way to kill him, given the arrogant personality of the I King, he would definitely not bring up the matter earlier. Shang Tong's golden eyes stared at Qin Wentian as a cold light flickered in them. Since he had already agreed to the Xian King's manor, Qin Wentian was already a dead man in his eyes. Although this young man's talent was outstanding, he was still bribed by the 9 great sections. He might as well get rid of him. Little friend, the Qinghua Mountain regards you very highly. Today, this is the second time we would like to extend an invitation to you. Are you interested in joining our Qinghua Mountain? The expert from the Qinghua Mountain once again extended an invitation to Qin Wentian. My Violet Thunder sect also welcomes you. The expert from the Violet Thunder sect stated his stance, causing Yin Ting's uncle's expression to stiffen. He glanced at an elder from the Violet Thunder sect beside him, yet the elder didn't even look at him. His countenance was as calm as ever. Evidently, from his perspective, the value of Qin Wentian far surpassed that of a mere Yin Ting. Although Yin Ting's cultivation base was higher than Qin Wentian, he wasn't even able to withstand a single spear strike from Qin Wentian. Why wouldn't they want such a character? The various major powers all opened their mouths to compete for Qin Wentian. The only one that didn't speak was none other than the Battle Sword sect. Lin Shuai glanced at Qin Wentian. With such a decisive temperament, he would definitely make his own decision. It didn't matter if they spoke up or not. There's no need for all of you to accept him. He will die for sure today. At this moment, a voice drifted over, causing the hearts of many to tremble. From afar, a powerful aura drifted over. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky, only to see a figure stepping on the clouds, descending in an instant. This person exuded a tyrannical aura, exuding an unexcelled arrogance as he stared down at Qin Wentian. Junyu. The experts from the Xian King's manor all had expressions of joy on their faces when they saw Junyu. Sadly, Junyu didn't arrive a step earlier. If that was the case, Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to act so brazenly. Junyu was an expert from the Royal Sacred Sect, and was also the personal disciple of the Xian King. Those from the 9 great sects also noticed Junyu as their hearts trembled. This Junyu actually appeared here? Was he here to avenge Shang-Chi? How could Junyu be here to avenge Shang-Chi? He was just passing by the Xian King city, and heard that the 9 great sects were recruiting disciples here. Hence, he came here to take a look and actually saw Qin Wentian there. Back then when he arrived in Grand Xia, bringing with him the identity of an elder of the Royal Sacred Sect, who would dare to defy him. Initially, he thought that the Pill Emperor Hall would become the hegemon of Grand Xia, and his name would resound throughout Grand Xia. Who would have thought that his halo would be suppressed by a young man? And this young man was none other than Qin Wentian. During the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings in Grand Xia, his domineering presence caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. In that battle, his radiance should have illuminated the heavens. Yet from the start until the end, he didn't even have the chance to unleash his full strength. He was forced into a corner by Qin Wentian, and was even forced to retreat. What a humiliation. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the silhouette in the air. How could he not remember Junyu? Back then when this man arrived in Grand Xia, how domineering was his attitude, causing the Ouyang aristocrat clan and Jiang clan to renounce their alliance with him, causing him to have no choice but to transform into a great rock and use the immortal vanquishing swordplay. Junyu was rumored to be the disciple of an elder of the Royal Sacred Sect. This elder was a king of Grand Shang, but who would have thought that he was none other than the old king of Xian King City? But so what of it? Although Junyu was the disciple of an elder, he was merely a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect. Die! Junyu coldly roared. His palm pressed downwards from the air. Qin Wentian stretched out his hand as an ancient medallion appeared in it. He then roared. With the sacred royal medallion here, who dares to kill me? Junyu retracted his palm as his countenance stiffened. He stared at the medallion in Qin Wentian's hand as a powerful aura gushed forth from him. You stole this medallion? The sacred royal medallion was obtained by me after I killed an expert. In addition, even if I stole it, it's still in my hands now. I hereby announce in front of the 9 great sects that I will use the sacred royal medallion to participate in the recruitment test of the Royal Sacred Sect. As a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect, if you dare to make a move against me, it would be equivalent to disobeying the sacred emperor and not putting the Royal Sacred Sect in your eyes. Qin Wentian roared, his words causing Junyu to turn ashen. He didn't expect Qin Wentian to actually know how to use the sacred royal medallion. Chapter 511. The Sacred Royal Medallion was an ancient medallion issued by the Royal Sacred Sect for the sake of recruiting geniuses from all over the world into their sect. With this medallion, one would be considered an outer disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect, and could directly obtain priority in the examinations of the various great sections. In fact, they could even skip the examinations and directly participate in the examinations of the Royal Sacred Sect. If they passed, they would officially become a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect. The examination of the Royal Sacred Sect was extremely strict, but it was also fair and just. There were many major characters of the Royal Sacred Sect personally observing the examinees, and no one dared to practice favoritism or violate the rules. This concerned the prosperity of the Royal Sacred Sect for generations to come. The royal sacred sect was the absolute hegemon of this region. They relied on the painstaking efforts of generations to nurture talents. All the geniuses in the world would eventually gather within the royal sacred sect. How could they not be powerful? No matter how powerful a sect was, if they didn't have the fresh blood of the younger generations, they would eventually fall into decline. Hence, the significance of the sacred royal medallion was extremely significant. Even if Qin Wentian didn't participate in the examination today, just by relying on the sacred royal medallion, he would be able to openly enter the 9 great sects and participate in the examination first. This was also the reason why the Granshang Empire ordered Gran Xia to come to Granshang. Currently, for those characters who left Gran Xia back then, some of them had already been recruited by the royal clan of Granshang. The people of Gran Xia didn't know the value of this medallion, but how could the people of Granshang not know? Not only that, the 9 great sects under the royal sacred sect were all here today. When Qin Wentian took out the medallion, Junyu retracted his palm imprint, not daring to kill Qin Wentian. Regardless of whether this medallion was obtained by Qin Wentian or not, it was already in his hands. This was his capability, and he had the qualifications to participate in the examinations of the royal sacred sect. In front of so many people, Junyu didn't dare to defy the will of the sacred royal medallion. After all, this place wasn't Gran Xia. The number of sacred royal medallions in Gran Xia was simply too little. Every 100 years, the 7 supreme clans would only be able to obtain 3 medallions. Back then, these medallions were directly distributed to the royal clan of Gran Xia, and were distributed by the royal clan. This was also one of the major reasons why the supreme clans rebelled back then. And after Gran Xia collapsed, the influence of Granshang in the royal sacred sect gradually grew stronger and stronger. It was already a force Gran Xia could no longer contend against, and after a few thousand years, Granshang had completely left Gran Xia behind. Junyu's gaze turned to Qin Wentian. His long hair fluttered in the wind as rage radiated from him. He wanted nothing more than to kill this young man who made him lose face in Gran Xia back then. He wanted nothing more than to kill Qin Wentian of the royal sacred sect. He was a ascendant of celestial ascension, and he even became the personal disciple of an elder of the royal sacred sect. Yet, he had suffered so many times. Evidently, the Xian king didn't expect that Junyu and Qin Wentian would have a grudge between them. That expert from the Xian king's manor spoke. Junyu, this brat is too brazen, killing the innocent. Who is he? Qin Wentian of Gran Xia. I've chased him to the ends of the earth. To think that he actually fled to Granshang. His lowly life is truly tough. Junyu's eyes flickered with a violent flame as he stabbed down, wanting to decapitate Qin Wentian in a moment of rage. Ridiculous. Qin Wentian pointed the long spear in his hand at Junyu as he coldly spoke. Since you are a disciple of the royal sacred sect, you actually used this name to show off your might in Gran Xia. Back then, you were scared away by me. Everyone in Gran Xia knows about this. And now, you still have the face to boast here? Junyu, you have simply thrown away the face of the royal sacred sect. As the sound of his voice faded, the entire crowd was stunned. Junyu was a powerful existence at the celestial phenomenon realm, a true disciple of the royal sacred sect. Yet he was actually scared away by Qin Wentian? If what Qin Wentian said was true, it would truly be too shameful. However, they didn't really believe it. It wasn't that they didn't believe in Qin Wentian's talent, but rather his cultivation base was simply too low. How could he contend against Junyu, who was at the celestial phenomenon realm? However, Junyu's countenance grew increasingly unsightly, causing many in the crowd to believe in Qin Wentian's words. Even if you have the sacred royal medallion in your hands, you have yet to officially join the sect. How dare you be so disrespectful to me? A violent surge of energy gushed forth from Junyu as he lunged towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian had no fear at all. The long spear in his hand was still pointed at Junyu. What a joke! I merely cultivated a few years earlier than you. If you and I were in the same generation, I'm afraid there wouldn't be a person named Junyu in this world. In the future, when I break through to celestial phenomenon, you will be nothing more than an ant before me. I will directly trample you to death. The Pill Emperor Hall was originally Qin Wentian's mortal enemy. Sooner or later he would go to the Pill Emperor Hall to pull out the demon sword and raze the entire place to the ground. Junyu was also his mortal enemy. As long as he could find the slightest opportunity, he would definitely kill him. There was nothing for him to be afraid of. How dare you be disrespectful to your elders? I, Junyu, will not kill you today, but I will still teach you a lesson so that you won't forget your mistakes. Junyu coldly snorted. His palms abruptly turned incomparably hot as a terrifying wheel of fire appeared in his palms, resembling a terrifying miniature sun as he grabbed towards Qin Wentian below. The space between the two of them was filled with boundless radiance as the flames towered up into the sky, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. The disciples of the Royal Sacred Sect were indeed tyrannical. Even if this strike didn't kill Qin Wentian, it was sufficient to heavily injure him. Busy. At this moment, a beam of light flashed through the air. In that instant, a towering sword might envelop the entire training ground, instantly slashing apart the palm imprints that were blasting towards Qin Wentian, tearing apart the blazing flames, causing fiery light to illuminate the skies. Junyu's countenance gleamed with sharpness as he turned his gaze in the direction of the sword. It was none other than the Battle Sword Sect. The spectators in the surroundings were all shocked. The Battle Sword Sect actually acted to obstruct Junyu's attack. No matter what, Junyu was the personal disciple of an elder of the Royal Sacred Sect. Although the 9 great sects belonged to different factions, they still had to give him some face, right? If the Battle Sword Sect acted now, they would undoubtedly offend Junyu. If Junyu was just an ordinary disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect, none of the 9 great sects would care about him. After all, the 9 great sects had roots in the Royal Sacred Sect. But Junyu himself was the personal disciple of an elder of the Royal Sacred Sect. Hence, if anyone wanted to offend him, they would have to consider carefully. But the Battle Sword Sect didn't hesitate to slash out a sword. My Battle Sword Sect came to Xianqing City to recruit disciples. We didn't come here to watch a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect strut around. Step down. Lin Shuai's voice was just like him, simple and sharp. A baleful aura flickered in the center of Junyu's brows as he stared at Lin Shuai. This is my business. What does it have to do with you? You dare to obstruct me? Lin Shuai placed his hands behind his back as a melodious sound rang out. His sword was slowly unsheathed, gleaming with a cold light. This scene caused Junyu's countenance to turn even colder. The 9 great sects are all under the Royal Sacred Sect. I'll say it one more time. Whoever dares to interfere with the recruitment test of my Battle Sword Sect, even if you and I are from the same sect in name, don't forget that the Royal Sacred Sect won't interfere in a personal grudge. Lin Shuai's voice was as simple and direct as ever. The threat in his words was unmasked. This caused Junyu's aura to surge up into the skies as he lunged towards Lin Shuai. Senior Junyu. At this moment, a voice drifted over from the direction of the royal clan. Junyu turned his gaze over. It was none other than the golden-eyed young man, Shang Tong. Junyu naturally recognized Shang Tong. Back then when he personally paid a visit to the royal clan of Grand Shang, he had met Shang Tong before. This person's talent was simply too terrifying. He had long since been bestowed a sacred royal medallion by the royal clan. In fact, there was even a possibility that Shang Tong wouldn't even need to undergo the recruitment test, and would be directly sent into the Royal Sacred Sect. In the future, Shang Tong would definitely become an extremely important character in the Royal Sacred Sect. King, what's the matter? Junyu politely nodded his head to Shang Tong. Since today is the recruitment day of the 9 great sects, let the juniors settle these grudges and grudges. Shang Tong's golden eyes gleamed with sharpness. Junyu glanced at the people around Shang Tong, and instantly understood that Shang Tong was giving him face, wanting to help him deal with Qin Wentian within the rules of the Royal Sacred Sect. Since the King has spoken, I temporarily won't teach this brat a lesson today. Junyu nodded his head. After which, he turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian once more. I really want to see if you can leave this place alive today. The experts from the major powers in Xianqing City were all filled with excitement when they heard this. If the King was willing to help, Qin Wentian would most probably die today. Qin Wentian also turned his gaze onto Shang Tong. Earlier when he wanted to kill Shang-Chi, it was this person who reminded Shang-Chi that he had changed his visage. The golden eyes of this person were extremely sinister, as though they could see through everything. At this moment, Shang Tong also happened to be looking at him. Their gazes locked, and within that pair of resplendent golden eyes, Qin Wentian could see an air of arrogance, unexcelled in the world. But wasn't Qin Wentian the same as well? His countenance was as sharp as swords, erupting forth from his eyes as their gazes collided in the air. Interesting. The corners of Shang Tong's lips curled up in a cold arc, and at the same time, Junyu also walked to his side. Instantly, someone stepped aside to allow Junyu to sit down. Qin Wentian didn't seem to mind at all. He turned his gaze onto the experts from the 9 great sects as he smiled. Are the 9 great sects still willing to recruit me into their sects? As the sound of his voice faded, the gazes of the crowd turned to the 9 great sections. Right now, if there were still any sects that wanted to recruit Qin Wentian, not only would they have to offend Junyu, they would also have to offend the I King, Shang Tong, and the Grand Shang Empire behind him. For the sake of Qin Wentian, was it worth it? And as expected, no one else dared to speak. Only the experts from the Great Earth Sect laughed. Our Great Earth Sect will never change our original intentions. Many thanks, Senior. Qin Wentian stared in the direction of the Great Earth Sect. He had no idea what the Great Earth Sect was thinking. Ever since he left the Sky Harmony City, he had roamed the continent for close to 10 years, and his personality had grown increasingly cautious. After passing the test, you will be a member of my Battle Sword Sect. No one would dare to bully you. Naturally, if you wish to leave, no one would dare to stop you. Lin Shuai faintly spoke. It was rare for the Battle Sword Sect to express their stance. Earlier, when the other 9 great sects were trying to recruit Qin Wentian, the Battle Sword Sect didn't say anything at all. Who would have thought that when Qin Wentian was in an awkward situation, the Battle Sword Sect not only acted for him, they even said such words. This caused many to sigh in their hearts. The Battle Sword Sect was indeed the Battle Sword Sect. They had such character. Many thanks, Senior, but Junior is in no hurry. Qin Wentian nodded to Lin Shuai from the Battle Sword Sect. Right now, out of the 9 great sects, he had the most favorable impression of the Battle Sword Sect. Lin Shuai from the Battle Sword Sect had already said that if he wished to leave, no one would dare to stop him. Such an attitude was extraordinary. It was just like the rumors he had heard about the Battle Sword Sect. Qin Wentian wielded the long spear in his hands, standing in the middle of the training ground with his eyes closed. At the same time, in the direction of Grand Shang, a few young men from Shang Tong's side stood up, causing the eyes of the experts from the Xian King Manor to gleam with a terrifying light. Qin Wentian was dead for sure. These people were the strongest batch of geniuses the Grand Shang Empire had ever recruited. They were all from the War King Hall, and in the future, they would all be able to enter the Royal Sacred Sect, paving the way for the most outstanding descendants of the Grand Shang Empire. Chapter 512. Upon seeing the 3 silhouettes before the I King walking towards the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation, those who knew of their identities all sighed in their hearts. Qin Wentian was finished this time around. The Warlord Hall was a place where the Grand Shang Empire specially nurtured the most outstanding of the younger generations. There were all sorts of cultivation arts and innate techniques there, and being able to enter the Warlord Hall was a great honor to many. This meant that they had entered the core of Grand Shang, becoming a trusted aide of the royal clan, and would receive the best nurturing. The younger princes were all cultivating in the Warlord Hall, each leading a group of geniuses. These people would be the foundation for them to contend for supremacy, and in the future, they would accompany them to rule the world. The various princes of the royal clan would often have conflicts because of the competition for the geniuses of the War King Hall. All of them wanted the best geniuses to follow them, vying for supremacy in the Royal Sacred Sect, becoming characters of the Royal Sacred Sect, able to command an entire region. This was what true authority was, even greater compared to the authority of the royal clan of Grand Shang. Although the Grand Shang Empire could rule over a vast territory, there were still the 9 great sects and the Grand Zhou Empire that could contend against them. In fact, in the sacred royal region, There were many extremely tyrannical powers under the 9 great sects that wouldn't listen to the commands of the Grand Shang Empire, not giving them any face at all. Only the Royal Sacred Sect was the absolute hegemon of the Grand Shang Empire. At this moment, 3 experts from the Warlord Hall walked out, and their cultivation bases were all extremely high. Although Qin Wentian's talent was extraordinary, he would still be defeated by them. However, this Qin Wentian was truly arrogant. He wasn't in a hurry to join the Great Earth Sect or pass the test of the Battle Sword Sect. He simply stood there in the middle of the training ground, closing his eyes and waiting quietly. He had no fear at all. And in his eyes, so what if the Warlord Hall was from the Grand Shang Empire? He would still be waiting for them. The spectators also didn't know if Qin Wentian had absolute confidence in himself, or if he didn't know the depths of the Warlord Hall. Hence, he made such a rash decision. Although the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation was powerful, it basically couldn't obstruct the 3 experts from the Warlord Hall. The 3 of them used tyrannical methods to trample over the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Before absolute strength, there was nothing that could obstruct them. Upon seeing such strength, the crowd couldn't help but feel worried for Qin Wentian. This young man who dared to challenge Junyu, a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect, would be as domineering as before. The experts from the 6 great sects of Xian King City all had killing intent in their eyes. This time around, Qin Wentian would die for sure. Shang Tong was the I King of Grand Shang. What sort of character was he? If he wanted Qin Wentian to die, how could Qin Wentian still be alive? In the entire Grand Shang Empire, there were only a few who could defy this young I King. After the 3 of them stepped onto the martial arts field, one of them strolled towards Qin Wentian. His domineering eyes stared at Qin Wentian. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through a person's body. It was extremely sharp. "You have to die." That person roared. Instantly, a brilliant light illuminated the skies as his astral souls and astral novas erupted forth. Golden sharpness manifested in the air as a terrifying vortex manifested there. It was as though even weapons and sabers would be sucked into that vortex, being shredded into dust. In front of that vortex, numerous incomparably fearsome golden spears could be seen, capable of penetrating through everything. This person erupted forth with the aura of a 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign the moment he appeared. The instant he released his aura, ordinary 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns would have to prostrate themselves before him. That terrifying pressure frenziedly gushed towards Qin Wentian, as though it wanted to tear Qin Wentian's body into pieces. Qin Wentian released his 4th astral nova, as the king's sword floated in the air. Sword qi ravaged the air, wanting to tear apart everything, as though wanting to force the myriad of enemies to submit. The windstorm that was gushing towards him was all torn apart, blocked outside, unable to corrode his body. His entire person was enveloped by a screen of light. "You are not worthy." Qin Wentian's voice was ice cold. That person snorted coldly, and instantly, the golden spears above his head erupted forth, streaking through the air, resembling golden bolts of lightning as they shot towards Qin Wentian. The might they exuded seemed to be able to penetrate through everything. Bz. Qin Wentian's heavenly astral sword slashed out, causing the air to tremble as it blocked the golden spears. Humming sounds rang out unceasingly as the astral novas of the 2 of them clashed against each other. An incomparably sharp tempest ravaged the platform, causing the eyes of that person to flash with a cold smile. "Your astral novas are very powerful, but you won't be able to escape the fate of death." As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying devouring energy gushed forth from him. Qin Wentian's black robes fluttered in the wind as he lost control of his body, and was about to be sucked into the tempest. The heavenly astral sword hovering above his head also felt the terrifying devouring tempest. The long spears in Qin Wentian's hands abruptly vanished, causing the eyes of the spectators to gleam with sharpness. Was this fellow crazy? He actually kept his long spear away at this moment? At this moment, they discovered that Qin Wentian's body was undergoing a transformation. His body was covered with a layer of demonic armor, as though he was clad in a divine weapon. His arms were like the arms of demons, exuding a boundless sharpness. His vitality flourished as his blood thrummed, emitting terrifying rumbling sounds. He seemed to be a descendant of a demon king from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Standing there, he was like the sovereign of the demon world. You are still far from it. Qin Wentian took a step forward as a thunderous boom rang out, causing the earth to tremble. It was unknown how terrifying the devouring energy was, but he ignored it and continued forward. As his brows furrowed, a fearsome will of mandates gushed into his opponent's sea of consciousness. However, Qin Wentian's opponent's will was exceedingly powerful. He was actually able to use his tyrannical will to resist. Frowning, his opponent's silhouette flickered as he dashed towards Qin Wentian. With a wave of his hand, countless sharp weapons instantly shot towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian slammed out with his palms as bell chimes rang out. His opponent's heart pounded violently, as though it was about to be torn apart. Return! Qin Wentian blasted out with another palm strike, causing the entire space to tremble. A supreme might gushed forth, actually sweeping everything back. Humph! That person coldly snorted as the devouring energy grew increasingly terrifying. It was like the mandate of devouring was capable of devouring everything. Boundless attacks were swept into the air, converging into the tempest, causing the formless shockwaves to be weakened by several degrees. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he executed stellar transposition. His entire person was like a bolt of lightning as he appeared before his opponent. A ferocious punch blasted out, destroying everything in its path. His opponent could feel the ferocity of the punch, yet his countenance didn't change at all. He placed his palms before his chest and abruptly clasped them together, directly blocking Qin Wentian's attack. A fearsome devouring energy gushed forth, causing Qin Wentian's blood to flow outwards. His attacks were being devoured unceasingly. What a powerful mandate of devouring! Qin Wentian's heart trembled as a terrifying light shot out from the center of his brows. At the same time, his martial spirit, Dreamscape, manifested. His opponent closed his eyes, as though he didn't want to be disturbed. However, the mandate of devouring directly gushed into his mind as numerous scarlet demon halberds pierced towards his head. That's fake. His countenance was like lightning. Relying solely on his perception, he tightly grabbed onto Qin Wentian's fist, devouring the energy within. I'll let you devour it. A voice thundered in his mind. After which, he felt a surge of bloodline energy gushing into his body, being devoured by him. But at this moment, the blood-colored light directly corroded his body, akin to a destructive curse, destroying the life force in his body. Not good. His countenance drastically changed as he abruptly retracted his hand. But at the same instant, the blood-colored light frenziedly gushed into his body, destroying all life force. His body started to corrode, turning into dried bones and puddles of blood. However, at this moment, the spectators all had strange expressions on their faces. This expert had the strength to contend against Qin Wentian. Why did he suddenly stop? He clearly still had the strength to continue fighting. Yet he actually gave up all resistance as his body collapsed onto the ground. Careful! Someone behind him warned. That expert abruptly opened his eyes only to see Qin Wentian right in front of him. Qin Wentian's palms were frenziedly blasting out, causing the expert's countenance to turn pale white. That was the dreamscape. Ultimately, he was still invaded by the dream force. Bang! As the palms slammed down, it was as though an ancient bell had directly smashed into his heart. Boundless pulsating waves of energy gathered towards his heart, causing him to cough out fresh blood. His heart was destroyed, and he died instantly. The experts from the War Emperor Hall of Granshang were all killed. The other two experts rushed over, only to see Qin Wentian's palms blotting out the sky. He directly blasted out a blood-colored curse imprint. The two of them slammed out with their palms at the same time, causing a raging tempest to arise. With a thunderous boom, the two of them only felt a terrifying corrosive energy gushing into their bodies, causing their astral novas to erupt violently. Boom! The sound of the bell rang out, causing their hearts to tremble, causing them to groan in pain. But even so, they still didn't hesitate to rush forward. Stellar transposition. Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished once more. Their perception was terrifying, and they abruptly turned around. Swish! The keening of a sword, the will of the mandate of sword melody at the transformation boundary. Two beams of blood-colored light slashed towards the throats of the two experts. They explosively retreated as boundless energy gathered at their throats. Boom! Qin Wentian vanished once more, slashing out with another sword strike. This time around, it was aimed at their backs. Scram! The two of them were forced into such a sorry state. Both of them were enraged, and they stabbed out with their fingers, causing the space around them to tremble. But at this moment, a scarlet demon halberd appeared, directly slashing towards them. The will of the dream devil gushed into their minds, causing the color of the sky to change. Poochie! A light sound rang out as one of them died. His head was pierced through by the scarlet demon halberd. The other expert wanted to flee, yet he only saw the scarlet demon halberd slicing through his head as the crescent moon blade sliced through it. Another light sound rang out as the arm of the last expert was severed. He screamed in agony. He finally managed to extricate himself from the dream devil state. Although it was only for an instant, it was like a nightmare to him. It's the power of dreams. That expert roared, causing the hearts of the crowd to tremble. They finally understood why Qin Wentian's spear was so invincible. So it turned out that every single spear strike of his contained the power of dreams. And now, he even used the scarlet demon halberd. Poochie! As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian's silhouette directly appeared. The scarlet demon halberd had no way to block it. It pierced right into Qin Wentian's body. Release him! A thunderous roar reverberated throughout the entire training field. The crowd turned their gazes over, and saw the Eye King standing up. His eyes were terrifying. Out of the 3 experts under him, 2 had already fallen. This was a slap to his face. Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Shang Tong. His eyes were filled with an unbridled arrogance as he stared at Shang Tong. Poochie! A light sound rang out. The scarlet demon halberd directly pierced into his opponent's heart, penetrating through his body. After which, the halberd abruptly flung the corpse towards Shang Tong. Boom! The corpse landed accurately at Shang Tong's feet. Qin Wentian pointed the scarlet demon halberd in that direction as a terrifying arrogance flashed in his eyes. He coldly spoke. Who the hell do you think you are? Are you even qualified to command me? Chapter 513. Qin Wentian's tyrannical voice caused the entire space to turn silent. Not only did he speak arrogantly, he even pointed the halberd in his hands at the Eye King, radiating a terrifying blood-colored light. It was as though he was saying, "If you, Shang Tong, come up here, I dare to use my halberd to chop you down from the battle platform." The experts from the 6 transcendent powers of Xian King City were all stunned by Qin Wentian's domineering attitude. Towering killing intent gushed forth in their hearts. This Qin Wentian actually dared to openly challenge the Eye King's prestige. This time around, there was no way he could survive. What level of talent was the Eye King? How could he allow a nobody to challenge him? Even if this person's combat prowess was terrifying, so what of it? He was the Eye King, one of the most doted upon princes of the royal sacred sect. In the future, he might even become a heaven chosen of the royal sacred sect, or an existence that could control the entire Grand Shang Empire. There had never been anyone who dared to defy him before, let alone provoke him. Once there was a great sect in Grand Shang Empire that was extremely arrogant because of their strength. The young master of that sect was also a heaven's chosen, extremely dazzling, and felt that his status wasn't inferior to the Eye King. Once he fought with the Eye King for a treasure, and in the end, the young master of that sect was killed by the Eye King on the streets. That sect wanted to take revenge on the Eye King, seeking justice from the royal clan. But in the end, that sect disappeared from Grand Shang, razed to flat ground. From then on, who in Grand Shang Empire didn't know that some people were destined to be existences they couldn't afford to antagonize, let alone the fact that the Eye King had already started his path of rise. His cultivation base was at the peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, his combat prowess was as high as the heavens, and he had even slain a demon-level character at the 7th level of Heavenly Dipper. He had many trump cards up his sleeves, and just based on his talent alone he already had an extremely high combat prowess. At this moment, his gaze was fixed on Qin Wentian. That pair of golden eyes of his seemed to be able to suck Qin Wentian in. That terrifying beam of light contained a fearsome mandate. Qin Wentian actually felt a golden beast lunging towards him, incomparably ferocious, wanting to tear his will apart. However, how strong was Qin Wentian's will? As long as the scarlet demon halberd was pointed at him, there would be nothing for him to fear. His eyes met Shang Tong's, and similarly, a terrifying will energy gushed into Shang Tong's eyes, as though they were engaged in a battle of wills. Do you know who you're talking to? An old man beside Shang Tong coldly spoke, glaring at Qin Wentian as killing intent gushed out from him. Qin Wentian glanced at the old man, revealing a look of contempt. He had already sent someone to kill him, yet he still wanted to reveal his identity to intimidate him? What was the point? Since they were mortal enemies, they had to kill each other regardless of their identities. You killed my subordinates, so I should personally kill you. However, this is the examination battlefield of the 9 great sects. If I make a move, I will be degrading myself. Shang Tong spoke indifferently as if he was telling Qin Wentian that it would be an extremely easy thing for him to kill Qin Wentian. However, he felt that his status was respected, so he disdained to make a move against Qin Wentian. Either come up or shut your mouth. Who doesn't know how to speak arrogant words? What's the point? Qin Wentian emotionlessly replied to Shang Tong. You are right. Who doesn't know how to speak arrogant words? I once killed my way out of an army of thousands of men and horses, undergoing hellish tempering. The cultivation bases of those I killed were all higher than me. If you can survive today, maybe you will have the qualifications to be my opponent in the future. At that time, I will kill you again. Shang Tong faintly spoke. He was the Eye King, a heaven chosen of the royal Shang Empire. He was one of the most dazzling characters in the younger generation of Grand Shang. Although this Qin Wentian had provoked him, given his status and cultivation base, if he directly acted to suppress Qin Wentian, although it was simple, he would definitely be criticized by others. But since Qin Wentian was rude to him, there was naturally no way he would spare him. Hence, he said that if Qin Wentian could survive today, only then would he have the qualifications to be his opponent. Sorry, I've never seen you as my opponent. If you were at the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper, I could trample you to death with a single stomp. Qin Wentian faintly replied. Although his words were arrogant, the spectators couldn't help but to ponder. This man didn't even need to unleash a second spear strike to kill 5th level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns. He could even kill 6th level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns. If a 4th level Heavenly Dipper sovereign was at the same level as him, it would truly be insufficient. If the Eye King, Shang Tong, was at the same level as him, and the two of them fought, who would be the stronger one? It was truly hard to say. However, Shang Tong, who was at the peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, was clearly stronger than Qin Wentian. There was no doubt about this. There's no point in talking so much. I want to see how you can survive today. Shang Tong's voice was extremely calm from the start, exuding an aura of disdain. He stared at the crowd as he spoke. Whoever kills him shall be rewarded with a heaven-mending pill. As the sound of Shang Tong's voice faded, it instantly caused a huge commotion. The entire space was in an uproar, incomparably shocked. Many people had expressions of madness on their faces. The heaven-mending pill was able to make up for the disadvantages of astral souls, allowing one's astral nova to condense even more astral energy, increasing the power and attack power of the astral nova. Naturally, this pill couldn't be used to defy the heavens. Although the heaven-mending pill could strengthen one's astral nova, it was only limited to this level. If one stepped into the celestial phenomenon realm, the talent of others would still be able to leave you in the dust. But no matter what, the temptation of the heaven-mending pill to Heavenly Dipper sovereigns was simply too great. Not only that, this pill was extremely rare, a 5th-ranked pill that was extremely valuable. Even if you had a shocking amount of wealth, you wouldn't be able to purchase it. The reason why Shang Tong was able to take out so many pills was because he was a prince of the Grand Shang Empire, and had an esteemed status. The Grand Shang Empire had its own pill concoction hall, and had recruited the best alchemy grandmasters in Grand Shang. Naturally, Shang Tong would be able to take out the best pills. Especially now that there were many outstanding Heavenly Dipper sovereigns who were preparing to participate in the recruitment test of the Royal Sacred Sect. They would naturally be facing the gathering of heroes from all over the world. And naturally they would have to make the most preparations, using their strongest stance to welcome the challenge, striving to enter the royal sacred sect, ascending to the heavens with a single step. The heaven-mending pill captured their hearts. Many experts were itching to give it a try. A single person wouldn't be able to kill Qin Wentian, but if a group of experts attacked together, no matter how strong Qin Wentian was, he would still die. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over to the crowd. He discovered that even some of the disciples from the 9 great sects had expressions of interest on their faces, as though they were thinking of killing him, only to see that at this moment, he could sense an expert from the Great Earth sect stealthily retreating, walking down the spectator stands. After which he discovered an expert from the Violet Thunder sect stealthily retreating, stepping into the crowd. The experts from the Sky Poison Valley and Blood Devil sect all took a detour, retreating before gathering in the direction of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. As to why they acted, they had already obtained the approval of the elders of their respective sections. Qin Wentian's combat prowess was tyrannical, and his talent was extraordinary. Yet he had offended so many people. Since they couldn't obtain him, they might as well destroy him. There were also some powers from the 9 great sects that didn't act. They initially wanted to recruit Qin Wentian as their subordinates, but it seemed that Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to escape death. There were even some who wanted to kick Qin Wentian when he was down, thinking that since Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to survive, they might as well snatch the heaven-mending pill. In the direction of the Battle Sword sect, Lin Shuai coldly laughed in his heart when he saw this scene. These great sects truly had the same style as before. If they couldn't obtain something, they would destroy it. Your actions are truly disappointing. If those from the 9 great sects act, you guys can go and experience it for yourselves. Lin Shuai spoke to the people behind him, his words causing the hearts of many to tremble. The Battle Sword sect didn't even bother to conceal their intentions, directly wanting to help Qin Wentian. Could it be that this battle would evolve into a battle between the 9 great sects? Humph. Someone coldly snorted, but the voice was ethereal, nobody knew where it originated from. Qin Wentian silently rejoiced in his heart that he didn't make his choice too early. When he was in Grand Xia, he had already experienced the various transcendent powers. Everyone in the world would do anything for the sake of benefits. If he wanted to join a sect, he would naturally choose the most suitable one. The Battle Sword sect has always done things as they please. But this time around, do you want to be embroiled in the battle between me and him? Don't forget, I will also be participating in the examination of the Royal Sacred Sect. At that time, if those from the Battle Sword sect participate, humph. Shang Tong coldly snorted, actually threatening the Battle Sword sect. You still don't have the qualifications to speak to me like this. Lin Shuai's eyes turned over, staring at Shang Tong. Instantly, numerous sharp swords pierced towards Shang Tong, causing him to explosively retreat. At the same time, the experts from Grand Shang rushed out, slamming out with their palms as the sharp swords whistled through the air, piercing through the air. Lin Shuai's gaze slowly shifted over, no longer looking at Shang Tong. He then spoke. Next time when you speak to elders, be more polite. As expected of the Battle Sword sect, domineering and fearless. The spectators didn't expect that a conflict would erupt between the Battle Sword sect and Shang Tong. This battle was getting more and more fascinating. It was said that the Battle Sword sect had always been at odds with the Battle Sword sect, and it was the same in the Royal Sacred Sect as well. Shang Tong's countenance grew incredibly unsightly. This person actually dared to directly act against him. His golden eyes turned cold as he icily spoke. I will remember the matters today. In the future, during the examination of the Royal Sacred Sect, I will make you all regret it. If this place wasn't the territory of the Grand Shang Empire, based on your words of threat to the Battle Sword sect, I would have already killed you directly. Lin Shuai's eyes were emotionless, he couldn't even be bothered to look at Shang Tong. He had always done things as he pleased. How could he allow a junior to threaten him? When the crowd heard Lin Shuai's words, they didn't doubt his words at all. If this place wasn't the Xian King city of Grand Shang, Lin Shuai might really dare to do some crazy things. Shang Tong coldly snorted again. He didn't say anything more and returned to his seat. Qin Wentian witnessed everything. He originally came here today to kill the Six Chosen, but he didn't expect that his identity would be exposed, causing a storm to erupt once more, and even causing the 9 great sects to be implicated. However, this storm caused him to have a clearer understanding of the 9 great sections. His understanding of them was no longer limited to the rumors he heard before. Since I want to join a sect, I should do it with a bang, telling the sect that their judgment wasn't wrong. Qin Wentian abruptly spoke, his words causing the gazes of the crowd to turn to him. Qin Wentian slowly walked out, walking in the direction of the Qinghua mountain. After which, he wrapped his arms around the mountain and extended his perception outwards. After which, he abruptly exerted force, causing rumbling sounds to echo out as the mountain was directly lifted 3 feet off the ground. He passed the test of the Qinghua mountain. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian placed the ancient mountain down. He retrieved his long spear and walked in the direction of the Great Earth sect. Staring at the Great Earth puppet, his silhouette flickered as he stabbed out with his spear, causing the entire space to tremble. The instant the long spear landed on the body of the Great Earth puppet, the pulsating energy of the Great Earth puppet engulfed every part of it, crushing it into dust. In an instant, the Great Earth puppet exploded. The test of the Great Earth sect passed. Chapter 5:14. What is he trying to do? Qin Wentian consecutively passed the tests of 2 great sects, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble violently. For the tests of the 9 great sects, regardless of the Qinghua Mountains or the Great Earth sect, they were all exceedingly difficult to pass. Only a select few would be able to join the 9 great sections. However, Qin Wentian easily passed the tests of the Qinghua Mountains and the Great Earth sect. Such dominance caused the hearts of the spectators to seethe with excitement. The young man on the stage walked towards the direction of the Violet Thunder sect. Staring at the silhouette of the puppet bathed in violet lightning, he stepped out. Has he gone mad? Could it be that he wants to pass all the tests of the 9 great sects? Qin Wentian's actions shocked everyone. The countenances of the experts from the 6 transcendent powers all turned ashen. It was already extremely difficult for the geniuses of their sects to pass the test. Yet Qin Wentian was able to pass it so effortlessly. At this moment, everyone was thinking that the deaths of the geniuses from their sects weren't unjust. Boom! Qin Wentian stepped out as Sword Qi howled in rage. The puppet of Violet Thunder punched out. Yet Qin Wentian's countenance didn't change at all. He continued to take a total of 5 steps, and on the 5th step, Qin Wentian groaned in agony. This caused the spectators to silently muse that although Qin Wentian was domineering, the tests of the 9 great sects weren't so simple. Most probably, the Violet Thunder sect wouldn't be able to pass the final 2 attacks. Boom! Qin Wentian took a 6th step. The puppet of Violet Thunder punched out for the 6th time. This time around, the lightning and the sword might collided, causing thunderous rumbling sounds to echo out unceasingly. Qin Wentian's countenance was as calm as ever as he forcefully took the 7th step. As his foot landed, the entire space around him was enveloped by an overwhelming killing intent, sweeping everything away. The puppet of Violet Thunder punched out for the 7th time, colliding with the Sword Qi and dissipating it. Qin Wentian flicked his sleeves as he turned and departed. It was as though the test of the Violet Thunder sect was nothing to him, not even worthy of a mention. The 3 great sects are too domineering. This fellow's talent is too terrifying. The experts from the 9 great sects have already started to enter the Violet Thunder sword drum formation to kill him. Yet he still wants to pass the tests of the other 6 great sects? Next, under the shocked gazes of the spectators, Qin Wentian lifted the axe of the heaven-cleaving manner and cleaved it apart, forcibly passing the test. During the Divine Dragon Castle's test, he transformed into a terrifying demonic dragon and soared into the sky. He fought against the illusory demonic dragon and finally broke the dragon formation. For the test of the Blood Devil Palace, the blood in Qin Wentian's body seethed with excitement. He had no fear of anything as he bathed in blood and slaughtered his way through the formation of a devil nest, passing the test. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, he forcefully passed the Sky Poison Valley's test. The test of the Forgotten Immortal Tower was extremely terrifying. It was an illusory formation formed by a group of beautiful women, filled with temptation that could cause people to sink into endless lust, unable to extricate themselves. However, Qin Wentian's state of mind was extremely resolute. He remained unmoved. No matter how many beautiful women there were, they were all like skeletons in front of him. He disregarded everything and wasn't tempted at all. He passed the test of the Forgotten Immortal Tower, and even passed the tests of the 8 great sections. Everyone was already numb to Qin Wentian's domineering strength. Finally, he walked to the entrance of the Battle Sword Sect. For the test of the Battle Sword Sect, if one didn't have a resolute heart, they would die for sure. This was something Lin Shuai had said before. Qin Wentian didn't hesitate at all. He stepped into the sword qi, basking in its might. There was no fear in his heart. His heart was filled with sincerity and determination. Step by step, millions of sword qi pierced through his body, yet his heart didn't waver. Finally, he stepped out and passed the test of the Battle Sword Sect. The tests of the 9 great sects were all passed. The entire space was silent. Qin Wentian acted as though there was no one else present. Domineeringly passing the tests of the 9 great sects caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. Those who passed the tests earlier were initially feeling complacent, but now, their complacency had completely vanished. Compared to Qin Wentian, what they had achieved was not even worth mentioning. Madman. Ji Shui was deeply shocked by what Qin Wentian had done. He was crazy when he was seizing the constellation fruits, and now, he was even crazier. Indeed, he's too crazy. Su Feng was also shocked, as great waves rose in his heart. He knew that his talent wasn't weak, but right now he felt that it was ridiculous. So it turned out that some people could really be so outstanding. Even for Qin Wentian's enemies, they were all stunned by what he had accomplished. The countenances of the experts from the 6 great sects were all incredibly ugly to behold, but the killing intent in their hearts grew increasingly intense. Shang Yu's beautiful eyes froze. Once, when Qin Wentian fought against her for the spatial brush, she was still high and mighty, thinking that he was just an ordinary mortal. Yet he actually dared to fight against her? He simply didn't know the immensity of death. But now, when she stared at the black-robed young man, she couldn't help but feel a sense of inferiority. This was someone who dared to oppose the disciple of an elder of the Royal Sacred Sect, Junyu. He even dared to point his divine weapon at Junyu and Shang Tong. All of these were things she didn't dare to do. No matter how crazy you are, you still have to die. Junyu's countenance was incredibly unsightly to behold. In Grand Xia, he had already experienced Qin Wentian's craziness. Qin Wentian didn't hesitate to pay any price to use the immortal vanquishing swordplay, causing the great Solar Chen clan to walk towards their doom. But since he was his enemy, he might as well kill him as soon as possible. The higher his talent, the more he had to die. Many experts from the 9 great sects had already passed the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation when Qin Wentian passed the test. They had personally witnessed how tyrannical Qin Wentian was, but this didn't hinder the killing intent in their hearts. They had to obtain the heaven-mending pill for sure. Only then would they have a higher chance of becoming a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect when they participated in the recruitment test. As they thought of this, they surrounded Qin Wentian. Evidently, they weren't prepared to fight against Qin Wentian one by one. The deaths of the 3 subordinates of Shang Tong were still fresh in their minds. How could they allow the same thing to happen again? Although it would be somewhat embarrassing to surround and kill Qin Wentian, they couldn't care less. The experts from the 9 great sects felt their hearts twitching when they saw this scene. They had personally witnessed how Qin Wentian passed the test, and faintly felt as though they had missed out on something. But now, there was no path of retreat. Since they couldn't obtain Qin Wentian, they had to destroy him. If not, if the other sects managed to obtain a demon-level talent, it would definitely be a threat to their sect. Given the current situation, there was an 80 to 90% chance that Qin Wentian would join the Battle Sword Sect. The Battle Sword Sect had chosen to act for him at the most crucial moment. Qin Wentian didn't even glance at the experts surrounding him. After passing the test, he turned his gaze in the direction of the Battle Sword Sect as a smile appeared on his face. Junior wants to borrow the opportunity of the 9 great sects to knock down the mountain gate of the Battle Sword sect. As the sound of his voice faded, silence filled the air. As expected, Qin Wentian had decided to join the Battle Sword sect. The experts from the Battle Sword sect all stood up. Lin Shuai also stood up with a smile on his face. He had originally said this on behalf of Qin Wentian. Even if Qin Wentian didn't open his mouth, he would have officially invited Qin Wentian to join the Battle Sword sect. After all, he had passed the test earlier as well. Lin Shuai understood that since Qin Wentian had taken the initiative to say that he wanted to join the Battle Sword sect, he was naturally returning the favor. Since the Battle Sword sect had chosen to act for him, he naturally wanted to enter the Battle Sword sect in the most dazzling manner possible. Without a doubt, the Battle Sword sect would instantly become the center of attention. As expected, the experts from the other 8 great sects felt their hearts turning cold. Qin Wentian had indeed joined the Battle Sword sect. In that case, he couldn't blame them. Naturally, Lin Shuai had a smile on his face as he stared at Qin Wentian. Come up here now. I want to see who dares to touch you. Killing indiscriminately. And yet you want to leave so easily? Ridiculous to the extreme. I'm afraid you won't be able to protect this young man with just a single sentence from you. Junyu coldly spoke. How could he allow Qin Wentian to leave with the Battle Sword sect just like that? Although this young man is extraordinary and passed the test of the Battle Sword sect, the matter regarding the training ground has yet to be settled. Let's wait a little longer. An expert from the Violet Thunder sect spoke, wanting to make Qin Wentian stay behind. Killing indiscriminately? A cold smile appeared on Lin Shuai's face. How shameless must one be to say such words? Do you want him to stand there and let your people kill him? So many 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns died in his hands, and they even joined forces. And now, you guys even sent out over 10 experts of this level. Do you guys still have any face? Beside Lin Shuai, an old man from the Battle Sword sect couldn't stand it any longer as he coldly snorted. Hee, no matter what, so many experts have already entered the training ground. We can't just disperse like this, right? An expert from the Qinghua Mountain spoke, his words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flicker. Seems like the people from the Qinghua Mountain had rejected his invitation twice, and they were feeling some resentment in their hearts. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he stared in the direction of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. He only saw a silhouette slowly walking over, passing through the formation. Qin Wentian stared at that silhouette. Her countenance was as cold as ice, akin to a snow lotus on an icy mountain. She possessed a supreme beauty, yet she seemed so far out of reach. Qin slowly walked out, and an instant later, she stood in front of Qin Wentian, causing several people to notice her presence. What a beautiful woman! Cold just like a beauty in the snow. Where did she come from? The princess of Xianqing City, Shangyu, is extremely famous and has a peerless beauty. But when compared to this woman, she actually pales in comparison. The eyes of many turned sluggish as they stared at Qin, unable to shift their eyes away. Even the experts from the 9 great sects were all stunned by her beauty. Shang Tong's golden eyes gleamed with a resplendent light. He had seen countless beauties in his life, and he had never forgotten to enjoy the pleasures of beauties. Hence, he requested the Xianqing city to send Shangyu to the royal palace to be his concubine. But after seeing Qin, his interest in Shangyu actually dimmed significantly. Who are you? Are you willing to join my Grand Shang Empire? Shang Tong stared at Qin, as he spoke. However, Qin, didn't even glance at him, directly ignoring his words. Qin Wentian indifferently glanced at Shang Tong, his eyes gleaming with coldness. After which he turned to Qin, and asked in a low voice, "Why are you here?" "I'm here to help you." Qin, spoke in a melodious voice. She stared at the silhouettes in front of her as a cold light flickered in her eyes. Qin took a step forward, and in an instant, a terrifying spatial tempest engulfed the entire martial stage. All the experts on the stage felt as though their bodies were bound by the spatial tempest. Their countenances were as pale as paper, and as the tempest swept over them. How powerful! How can she be so powerful? Several experts from the 9 great sects stood up, their eyes gleaming with sharpness. Peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, mandate of space at the perfection boundary of the 2nd level. Qin Wentian was also stunned by the power of Qing Er's will of mandates. She was at the peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, with a mandate at the perfection boundary. Not only that, it was the mandate of space. In this training ground, she was simply an invincible existence. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Qing Er was so powerful. Chapter 5:15. The cultivation of one's mandate depended purely on one's comprehension. Many cultivators had no way to break through because they were stuck at the boundary of their mandates. Normally speaking, only those at the peak of Heavenly Dipper would have a mandate at the perfection boundary of the 2nd level. In fact, ordinary cultivators wouldn't even be able to do so. But Qing Er was only at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, yet her mandate of space had already reached the perfection boundary. For those whose mandates were far ahead of their cultivation base, their accomplishments would definitely be terrifying. There was no need to worry about not being able to break through. This was an ironclad rule. Hence, nobody doubted that Qing Er would step into the celestial phenomenon realm. Although this realm was able to stop countless stellar martial cultivators, it definitely wouldn't be able to stop an existence like her. Mandate of space at the perfection boundary. Shang Tong's golden eyes froze. Earlier, he still wanted to recruit Qing Er into the royal palace and make her his woman. But now, he understood that he might not be able to control such a person. With a mandate of space at the perfection boundary, in addition to the fact that they were both at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, even he wouldn't have any chance of victory against this woman. But what made it hard for Shang Tong to accept was that such an outstanding woman was actually here to help Qin Wentian. It's her. When Junyu saw Qing Er, he immediately recognized her. When he was in Grand Xia, he had met this woman before. Although Qing Er wasn't very strong to him, he still had a deep impression of her. Her temperament was too extraordinary. Qing Er, I haven't met with any life-threatening danger yet. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to Qing Er as a smile appeared on his face. With over 10 experts at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper joining hands to kill him, he would indeed be in danger. But after all, they hadn't acted yet. If it was before, Qing Er wouldn't have appeared. But now Qing Er actually appeared earlier than expected, causing him to be somewhat taken aback. Seems like as the time they spent together grew longer, Qing Er was slowly changing. After all, it had been close to 10 years, and Qing Er had always been accompanying him in the shadows. In the past, she only listened to Fairy Qingmei's orders. Back then, to Qing Er, it was a mission. But now, protecting Qin Wentian was no longer as simple as the mission given to her by Fairy Qingmei. Oh. Qing Er blinked, and just when Qin Wentian thought that Qing Er wouldn't continue to bother with him, he heard a reply. But they bullied you. A clear and melodious voice reached Qin Wentian's ears, causing Qin Wentian to be stunned. Warmth flowed through his heart. Although it sounded strange, wasn't this just like Qing Er's personality? A gentle smile could be seen on his face as he stared at the beautiful silhouette in front of him. After which he took a step forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qing Er. Qing Er, let me do it. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Qing Er glanced at him before nodding her head. I'll help you from the back. Qin Wentian didn't reject. A violent aura gushed forth from him as he advanced forward. Qing Er unleashed her mandate of space at the perfection boundary, capable of severing the space between them. Despite their frenzied attacks, they discovered that they had no way to break through the spatial barrier. Bzz. A raging wind gusted by as Qin Wentian stabbed out with his scarlet demon halberd. The spatial barrier between Qin Wentian and that expert abruptly shattered, causing the countenance of that expert to stiffen. After which, the scarlet demon halberd directly descended upon him as the terrifying power of a dream devil instantly occupied his mind. Numerous terrifying scenes appeared in his mind. A blood-colored space, countless demonic halberds, the heavens and earth darkened. Qin Wentian brandished his scarlet demon halberd, akin to a devil god. That expert had no strength to resist at all. Qin Wentian's mandate of dreams was already at the transformation boundary of the second level. Now that the Scarlet Demon Halberd was augmented, how terrifying would it be? There was no way for that expert to block it. Pung. The Scarlet Demon Halberd directly pierced through the head of that expert, instantly killing him. Qin Wentian's movements didn't pause as he moved towards another expert. Qin Yer stood behind Qin Wentian, acting as his protector. Whenever he moved towards an expert, that expert would be in the same space as Qin Wentian. As for the others, they would be blocked by the mandate of space. Such an innate technique manifested from the mandate of space at the perfection boundary caused the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. Puchi. Another light sound rang out. Very swiftly, another expert fell under the Scarlet Demon Halberd of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian and his opponent were in the same space, fighting fair and square, killing his opponent. Go. In the direction of the 9 great sects, someone spoke, causing the experts in that space to want to flee. If this continued, they would all be killed by Qin Wentian one by one. No one is allowed to leave. Qin Yer's voice was cold. She clenched her fist as the spatial energy around her grew even more violent. Everyone stared at the golden threads in the air, and to their shock, they discovered that the terrifying spatial energy actually transformed into a spatial prison, trapping everyone in a different space. Spatial prison. What a terrifying innate technique. The experts from the 9 great sects were all stunned by how powerful Qin Yer was. Their experts had already entered the training grounds, and were now trapped by the spatial prison. In addition to Qin Wentian's tyrannical strength, he could kill as many people as he wanted. Not too long after, 8 experts successively fell under Qin Wentian's Scarlet Demon Halberd. At this moment, Qin Wentian arrived at another spatial prison. He was facing an expert in blue robes whose eyes flickered with terrifying lightning. Qin Wentian stepped forward and slashed out with his Scarlet Demon Halberd. A terrifying cold light shot out from the center of his brows. A look of wariness appeared on the face of the blue-robed man, as he stared at Qin Wentian walking towards him. Just at the instant when that terrifying dreamscape rushed into his mind, the blue-robed man abruptly slammed his palms forward as an umbrella appeared in front of him. This umbrella contained a terrifying amount of lightning, and at the instant the umbrella opened, a bolt of destructive lightning shot towards Qin Wentian. The destructive might contained within the lightning was so strong that it seemed as though it wanted to shatter Qin Wentian's body in an instant. "Be careful!" Qin Yer shouted. The purple lightning directly destroyed the space around her. Qin Yer's silhouette flickered as she rushed into the spatial prison. Her palms directly slashed towards the blue-robed man. The blue-robed man hurriedly lifted his hands to counterattack as terrifying lightning tore through everything. Rumble! Their attacks collided, and the lightning seemed to be disintegrated. Qin Yer's palms slashed down in anger, imprinting onto the blue-robed man's body. An incomparably terrifying golden light directly tore the blue-robed man's body apart, turning him into nothingness. Only the lightning umbrella remained, falling to the ground. Qin Wentian had already sensed danger the instant his opponent used the lightning umbrella. He instantly executed stellar transposition and retreated. Yet the Scarlet Demon Halberd didn't slow down at all. But even so, there was still a terrifying amount of lightning energy blasting into his body, causing his skin to split apart as fresh blood flowed out. 5th rank Divine Weapon, an attack-type divine weapon that contains a fearsome lightning attribute. Qin Wentian's lips were filled with blood as his countenance turned pale. He didn't expect his opponent to actually have such a trump card. With a 5th-ranked attack-type divine weapon, his opponent could have easily used it to break apart the spatial prison and escape. Yet he didn't. Evidently, his opponent was waiting for him to arrive. Evidently, he wanted to kill him and obtain a heaven-mending pill. Idiot. In the direction of the Violet Thunder sect, Yinting's uncle cursed in rage. That umbrella was a treasure he had obtained, and it could only be used 5 times. Its pure offensive power was extremely terrifying, and the reason he lent it to his opponent was because he wanted to kill Qin Wentian. Who would have thought that not only did his opponent fail to do so, he even lost his divine weapon? "My son!" An expert from the Violet Thunder sect roared in a low voice. His eyes were bloodshot as he turned his head, glaring at Yinting's uncle. Who are you calling an idiot? I. Yinting's uncle trembled as he lowered his head, not daring to say anything more. However, his heart was filled with rage. He had lost such a powerful divine weapon, yet he still failed to kill Qin Wentian. Qing Er's hair fluttered in anger as she sped towards the other spatial prisons. When she saw one of them trying to escape, a terrifying golden light enveloped her, and she actually appeared behind him. She made a grabbing motion, sealing off the space around them. Die! Qing'er roared in rage. Momentarily, that person's body was torn apart. In front of Qing'er, who had a mandate of space at the perfection boundary, he had no way to resist at all. Qing'er, I'm fine. Qin Wentian stood up when he saw the rage in Qing'er's eyes. A smile appeared on his face. Qing'er turned her head back to look at him, but she didn't say anything. This divine weapon is truly powerful. It must be someone from the 9 great sections. Qin Wentian silently mused. He picked up the umbrella, and his sharp eyes swept over the others as he continued his slaughter. Those people all had expressions of despair on their faces. Qin Wentian alone was already tyrannical enough, but with the addition of the monstrous Qing'er, there was no way they could defeat him. The slaughter continued, and not long after, other than those spectators, those who wanted to kill Qin Wentian were all dead. This scene deeply pierced the hearts of the 9 great sections. Not only did they fail to obtain the heaven-mending pellet, they even lost their lives. Using numbers to bully the weak? How ironic! In the direction of the Battle Sword sect, the old man beside Lin Shuai swept his gaze over the crowd as he spoke. Is there anyone else who wishes to continue? Those at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, feel free to challenge me. No one replied. Such a situation made everyone understand that if they wanted to continue, they would undoubtedly be courting death. Qing'er's spatial innate technique could isolate people. And in terms of individual combat prowess, within the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, there was no one who could defeat Qing'er or Qin Wentian. Can I also join the Battle Sword sect? Qing'er asked in a light voice. The experts from the Battle Sword sect stared at her. Lin Shuai's eyes flickered with a smile. Just based on your mandate of space at the perfection boundary, this test has no meaning to you. You can easily pass it. The other 8 powers from the 9 great sects all felt uncomfortable in their hearts. They had already missed out on Qin Wentian, and now, they had missed out on a second demon-level genius. This caused them to ponder in their hearts. Was it really worth it to lose 2 monstrous geniuses like these and avoid offending Junyu and Shangtong? These 2 are too arrogant. They are stained with blood. We should remove the restriction on our cultivation bases and kill them. In the quiet space, in the direction of the Violet Thunder sect, Yinting's uncle roared in rage. He was unwilling to accept this ending. That's right, there shouldn't be a cultivation restriction. An expert from the Yin family agreed. But at this moment, in the direction of the Battle Sword sect, an old man stood up. This old man appeared extremely calm. Yet the crowd only saw his silhouette flickering as he transformed into a beam of sword light, vanishing from sight. There's no restriction on our cultivation bases? Who else still wants to kill the disciples of my Battle Sword sect? Feel free to speak up. An aged voice rang out. Just now, that beam of sword light appeared in the training field. An old man stood there, looking as ordinary as ever. It was as though he didn't exude any aura. However, that beam of sword light caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. Chapter 516. That old man from the Battle Sword sect stood in the air above the training ground. Although his aura wasn't gushing forth, the 9 great sects all felt a sense of pressure. This old man was definitely a supremely powerful existence. To think that the Battle Sword sect actually had such a character here. The experts from the Violet Thunder sect all stood up, their hair fluttering in anger. The lightning around them crackled and crackled, as though wanting to annihilate the heavens and earth, destroying everything. You actually dare to humiliate my Violet Thunder sect like this? An expert from the Violet Thunder sect roared in rage. Just because of a single sentence, an expert from his Violet Thunder sect was killed. Not only that, it was done in front of everyone. This was undoubtedly a ruthless slap to the face of their Violet Thunder sect. Not only did you not die after killing the disciples of my Battle Sword sect, you even dare to shamelessly suggest to lift the restriction on cultivation bases? Do you really think my Battle Sword sect is so easily bullied? If those from the Violet Thunder sect are unhappy, feel free to come up here. There's no restriction on cultivation bases. That old man coldly snorted, his voice akin to the humming of 10,000 swords, causing the entire space to tremble. It was as though there was a boundless sword chi whistling by their ears. It was extremely unbearable. Too powerful. He was definitely a supremely powerful celestial phenomenon ascendant. He arrogantly said that if the people from the Violet Thunder sect wanted to fight, they could do so. That old man's words were akin to a declaration of war against the Violet Thunder sect. Although the experts from the Violet Thunder sect were enraged, none of them dared to stand out. They were the ones who stood out. Yet the old man had already slain one of their experts. At this moment, how could the other sects step out to help them? Good, very good. The leader of the experts from the Violet Thunder sect was infuriated to the extreme. However, he knew that his opponent had heaven-defying methods. If they fought, he would definitely be defeated. Given the way the Battle Sword sect did things, they might really start a massacre here. To them, this was something they couldn't accept. Even if they were humiliated, they could only swallow it down. If you don't dare to fight, shut up for this old man. That old man coldly snorted. After which, he turned his gaze onto the others, his eyes filled with a tyrannical might as he coldly stated, "Who else wants to challenge me? Those who are at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper and below can go up at any time. If there's anyone who says there's no restriction on their cultivation base, come up and fight me together." Such arrogant words. It could be said that he didn't put the 9 great sects and the royal clan of Granshang in his eyes. But after thinking about it carefully, he realized that the other party did indeed have the qualifications to be arrogant. The strength of this old man caused the Violet Thunder sect to feel such trepidation. Even after death, they didn't dare to accept the challenge. Most probably, no one here dared to say that they could deal with him. As for those below the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, Qing, and Qin Wentian were invincible. No matter how many there were, they would be able to kill as many as they wanted. Sweeping through everything, nobody could obstruct them. This was talent. Turning their eyes over, the crowd stared at the 2 figures standing side by side. Qin Wentian was fiendishly handsome and tyrannical, akin to a descendant of an ancient demon king. Qing was incomparably beautiful, yet as cold as ice. She was a peerless beauty. In the battle today, Qin Wentian fought against the other outstanding geniuses, passing the test of the 9 great sections. Although Qing only appeared for a moment, her domineering attitude left an indelible impression in the hearts of the crowd. The 2 of them stood together, exuding a magnificence that surpassed the generations, causing all the other geniuses to lose their splendor. After joining the Battle Sword sect, their future would surely be even more terrifying. Many mused silently. Most probably, no one would be able to obstruct them today. Don't you think it's a little inappropriate for you to be so domineering in the territory of my Granshang Empire? At this moment, an indifferent voice drifted over. The person who spoke was none other than the I King of Granshang, Shang Tong. No matter what, Xian King City was one of the 7 great royal cities of Granshang. Those from the Battle Sword sect simply didn't have it in their eyes at all. Are the people of Granshang also lacking in upbringing? How dare you speak so rudely to your elders? The eyes of the old man from the Battle Sword sect swept over to Shang Tong as a terrifying sharpness gushed forth. Ordering so many people to bully the disciples of my sect? Do you really think that you, a prince, can use your prestige to bully my Battle Sword sect? If you dare to say another word about touching the disciples of my Battle Sword sect, I will kill you on the spot. Do you believe me? As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying might enveloped Shang Tong. The experts beside him all stepped out, blocking in front of Shang Tong. However, the sword chi was too terrifying. It felt as though it could slay Shang Tong at any moment. The disparity between the 2 of them was simply too great. There was no way to make up for it. Shang Tong was protected by the experts behind him. His golden eyes flickered with a cold light, He didn't expect that there would actually be people who dared to bully him in the territory of Grand Shang. The surrounding space was once again filled with silence, incomparably heavy. Seems like the Battle Sword sect came prepared. There's actually such a powerful expert hidden among them. This trip to the Xian King city was suggested by the Battle Sword sect. Coincidentally, they met Qin Wentian and Qin Wentian, these two supreme geniuses. However, what's the original purpose of the Battle Sword sect? Many people felt puzzled in their hearts. The strength of this old man was extremely terrifying. Before this, he had been quietly sitting among the crowd of people from the Battle Sword sect, not revealing his true strength. Yet, his strength was so overwhelming that it was even stronger than those from the 9 great sections. Is there anyone who dares to step up? Does the other sects in Grand Shang have no one capable? You guys can't even bring out a single decent character. Yet you are still so arrogant? Could it be that you only dare to act arrogantly when you have the advantage in numbers? The old man roared again upon seeing the silence in the air. The face of the 9 great sects in Grand Shang has all been thrown away by you guys. This trip is truly disappointing. The countenances of those from the 9 great sects alternated between shades of green and white. Their strength couldn't be compared to the old man, and none of them could deal with Qin Wentian and Qin Wentian. How could they still act arrogantly? They had completely lost their confidence. If they were weak, they could only be suppressed by others. Even if they were humiliated, they could only swallow it down. Since there's no one here, Lin Shuai, let's return. The old man spoke. Those from the Battle Sword sect all stood up as sword chi towered up into the heavens. They all stepped on their swords, preparing to soar into the skies at any moment. The old man waved his hand as a beam of sword light appeared beside Qin Wentian and Qing Er. He then spoke to them, "Ride on my sword." The distance between the Xian King city and the Battle Sword sect was a distance of 200,000 miles. Given Qin Wentian's speed, it would take him several days to reach there. But given the strength of that old man, it wouldn't take too long. Celestial phenomenon ascendants had inconceivably fast speed. Traversing tens of thousands of miles in a single day wasn't a problem at all. "Senior, please wait a moment." Qin Wentian didn't leave immediately. He stepped out and stared in the direction of those from the Grand Shang Empire, before turning his gaze onto the 6 great powers of Xian King City. Back then, the 6 great powers ganged up on me, because of the constellation fruits. Hence I Qin came here today for revenge. If any of you want revenge, feel free to come to the Battle Sword sect to look for me. However, there's one more person who must die today. As the sound of his voice faded, his gaze instantly locked onto Yin Cheng from the Yin clan. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's gaze, Yin Cheng's countenance paled as he howled, "Grandpa, save me." However, a terrifying beam of light shot out from the center of Qin Wentian's brows. His will of mandates directly blasted into Yin Cheng's sea of consciousness. In an instant, Yin Cheng only felt a scene of purgatory appearing in his sea of consciousness. Corpses piled up like mountains as blood dyed the heavens and earth red. Numerous devils and devils rushed towards him. And the one in the lead was none other than Qi Yezi, whom he had forced to his death back then. "This is an illusion, it's not real." Yin Cheng howled in rage, wanting to struggle free. However, he only saw the numerous devils and devils directly grabbing at him with a strength of over 1,000,000 jin. With a muffled sound, the crowd saw Yin Cheng coughing out blood 3 times in a row. His countenance was as pale as paper as he directly collapsed to the ground, killed by Qin Wentian through the air. The spectators stared in shock at this scene. Qin Wentian's ability to kill those with a lower cultivation base was simply unfathomable. Most probably it was the power of his eye technique, similar to Shang Tong's innate techniques. The experts from the Yin clan pointed their fingers at Qin Wentian. Their killing intent towered up into the sky. However, Qin Wentian merely stared at them calmly. There was no joy nor sorrow in his eyes. Back then, the 6 major powers of Xian King City ganged up on him, because he didn't have any background, which was why they dared to do so. Now he borrowed the power of the Battle Sword sect to forcefully annihilate Yin Cheng. Yet the Yin clan could only feel hatred. They didn't dare to seek revenge. It was as though the tables had been flipped. one couldn't help but say that the situation had changed drastically. In just a short span of a few months, the heavens and earth had been turned upside down. Because of the pursuit in the heavenly mountain range, it led to a bloody war in Xianqing City today, implicating the 9 great sects in the process. I'll wait for you all to come and take revenge. Qin Wentian stared at the experts from the Yin clan. After which, he and Qing Er stepped onto the sword beam. Little Rascal transformed into a white shadow and leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace, causing a look of bewilderment to appear on the faces of many. Go! The old man from the Battle Sword sect roared. A moment later, the whistling of swords filled the air as the group of experts soared through the air, transforming into beams of white light. Let's go! The crowd felt a sense of loss. The battle today was truly fascinating, yet they felt that it was too short. That young man and woman were simply too powerful, with outstanding talent. In the future, they would definitely be able to shine brightly in the Battle Sword sect. The Battle Sword sect only came here to pick up the 2 of them. What's going on exactly? There were also people who were bewildered, they couldn't understand. Shang Yu watched on as Qin Wentian killed Yin Cheng and left. An indescribable feeling filled her heart. This person was someone she couldn't be compared to. The 2 of them were people from different worlds. Even if she was the princess of Xianqing City. Ji Shui and Su Feng also watched as Qin Wentian left. A smile flickered in Ji Shui's eyes as she spoke in a low voice. Let's hope that in the future, we would be able to hear his legend in Grand Shang Empire. Qin Wentian's trip to the Battle Sword sect would definitely cause a storm of commotion in the royal sacred region. The royal capital of Grand Shang could be considered the border region of the royal sacred region. True experts were as common as the clouds there, and geniuses were innumerable. Geniuses like these from Xianqing City could be seen everywhere. For this trip to the Battle Sword sect, the true elites of the 9 great sects didn't come out. From afar, in the air, Qin Wentian and Qing Er stood on the same sword beam. Qin Wentian stared at Qing Er as he smiled. Qing Er, when did you become so powerful? Your mandates have actually reached the perfection boundary. Qing Er stared at Qin Wentian as she replied in a low voice. I've eaten the fruits you gave me. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. The 2 constellation fruits that contain spatial energy were actually eaten by this lass. No wonder her mandate of space had already reached the perfection boundary. She was truly a glutton. Was it delicious? Qin Wentian had a smile that was not a smile on his face as he asked. Qing Er stared at Qin Wentian. Her eyes brightened as an expression of contemplation appeared on her face. Her lips trembled as she replied, disgusting. Oh. Qin Wentian stared at the serious expression on Qing Er's face. He did his best to suppress the urge to laugh out loud. This last Qing Er was truly adorable. Chapter 517. The royal sacred region spanned across the boundless territories, and there were countless sects and clans, as well as countless ancient countries. The royal sacred sect, the hegemon of this boundless territory, was also located in this region. In this region, other than the hegemon, there were the 9 sects, 7 clans, and twin empires. The 9 sects naturally referred to the 9 great sects of the royal sacred region. The 7 clans referred to the 7 transcendent ancient clans, their strength unfathomably terrifying. It was just that they didn't belong to the royal sacred sect directly, but the descendants of these 7 clans all felt it was an honor to join the royal sacred sect. The twin empires referred to the Grand Shang Empire and the Grand Zhou Empire. If one looked further, the 3 empires, Grand Zhou, Grand Shang, and Grand Xia, all belonged to the royal sacred region and were governed by the royal sacred sect. It was just that because the area they controlled was too vast, the royal sacred sect wasn't willing to care about places that were too far away. Not only that, half of the Grand Zhou Empire's territory was within the royal sacred region. The most important royal capital of the Grand Shang Empire was there as well. As for the already destroyed Grand Xia, the royal sacred region no longer paid much attention to it. From this, one could very well imagine how vast this region was. The number of living beings here was truly innumerable, and it was unknown how many experts there were. Not only that, other than the 9 sects, 7 clans, and twin empires, there were still many weaker sects and clans, and even ancient countries. They belonged to the second tier of powers, but they were still exceedingly powerful. If there was a day where a few peak characters appeared, they might be able to replace the 9 sects, 7 clans, and twin empires. One must know that in the history of the Royal Sacred Region, these powers had all been replaced before. 5,000 years ago, among the 9 sects, there was no Battlesword sect. It was just that the Battlesword sect suddenly rose up and obtained an important position in the Royal Sacred Sect, gradually becoming an important branch of the Royal Sacred Sect. This was also the reason why the various sects wanted to send their disciples to the Royal Sacred Sect. For some of the second-tier powers, their accumulations weren't any weaker compared to the 9 great sections. It was just that their strength was too weak compared to the Royal Sacred Sect, which was why they had no way to replace them. Right now, Qin Wentian had arrived at such a region. Along the way, he flew on his flying sword and stared at the flourishing scenery below, feeling shock in his heart. The people of the Battlesword sect didn't fly too high, and they could clearly see everything below. Everywhere they passed, the places were all much more flourishing compared to the 9 continents of Grand Xia. Sometimes, they would pass by some tyrannical aristocratic clans, and the experts of those clans would soar up into the skies, exuding a terrifying aura that could easily sweep through the 9 continents of Grand Xia. Qin Wentian also flew past an ancient country. As they passed by, the territory of the ancient country was an empire, they as kings as they as sacred clans of the lands, they as emperors they could, they as they could, as they as and when they as ancient as and they as. As Qin Wentian also flew past an ancient country. The territory of this ancient country was exceedingly vast, and when they passed by the royal palace of the ancient country, countless experts clad in armor soared up into the skies. That kind of aura caused one to feel suffocated. And upon seeing that they were from the Battlesword sect, there were instantly nobles who came out to send them off. After the experts of the Battlesword sect knew that he came from the desolate Grand Xia, they purposely did this. Evidently, they had put in a lot of effort to allow him to broaden his horizons, allowing him to understand how vast the heavens and earth were. From his conversation with Lin Shuai and the others, only then did he understand that Grand Xia was actually an abandoned land of desolation in the eyes of the experts of the Royal Sacred Region. This caused Qin Wentian to be filled with a myriad of emotions. Qin Wentian also finally understood why Junyu was so arrogant when he came to Grand Xia. He was a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect. How could he have any regard for the desolation of Grand Xia? On the contrary, the people of Grand Xia rarely came to the Royal Sacred Region before. Most probably, they didn't have enough understanding of Junyu's status. However, all of this only caused Qin Wentian to be even more excited. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he exuded an imposing aura. Qing'er, who was beside him, was as calm as ever. She didn't say anything, and even when the experts of the Battlesword sect tried to talk to her, she ignored them, causing the experts of the Battlesword sect to smile bitterly. But knowing her personality, they wouldn't lower themselves to her level. Finally, they arrived at their destination, the Battlesword sect located in the southern regions of the Royal Sacred Region. In Qin Wentian's imagination, the Battlesword sect should be located in a vast, desolate plain with many outstanding geniuses wanting to join it. But when he arrived, he couldn't help but to smile bitterly. The surroundings of the Battlesword sect were bustling with activity. Outside the Battlesword sect, there was an ancient sword erected there. This was the boundary of the Battlesword sect. In front of them, a gigantic sword pierced through the heavens, as though it wanted to pierce through the clouds. In front of them, there were many ancient peaks, and numerous buildings stood there, resembling immortal palaces in the heavens. The Battlesword sect spanned a few hundred miles, but it was located in the middle of a flourishing region, not in the wilderness. Outside the boundary of the Battlesword sect, there were countless silhouettes walking about. Their gazes were fixed on the Battlesword sect, as hints of reverence could be seen in their eyes. Why? Are you very disappointed? Lin Shuai stood beside Qin Wentian as he asked with a smile. How can that be? I'm just a little surprised. I thought the battle sword sect would be located in the middle of a mountain range. Qin Wentian laughed. I Wu Xiu roamed the world with a sword in my hands, living in the world of mortals. The battle sword sect isn't as transcendent as you think. We're all people of the world of mortals, cultivating our swordsmanship, roaming the world, settling our debts of gratitude and enmity, living a carefree and unrestrained life. Lin Shuai laughed. For those who are unable to face their own hearts, it's impossible for them to reach a higher realm in the path of the sword. The reason why the battle sword sect is so lax in disciplining their disciples is because they don't want to restrict them. Remember this, after joining the battle sword sect, there's no need for you to follow the rules. You only need to face your own heart and persevere. If there comes a day when you feel that the battle sword sect isn't suitable for you, you can just leave on your flying sword, and the sect won't make things difficult for you. What a carefree and unrestrained battle sword sect. Qin Wentian felt his heart trembling when he heard Lin Shuai's words. Back in Xian King City, he had heard many rumors about the battle sword sect. Seems like the rumors were true. This sect was different from the other sections. They were truly carefree and open-minded, cultivating their swordsmanship, roaming the world, settling their debts of gratitude and enmity, living a carefree and unrestrained life. As the two of them spoke, the group of them had already entered the battle sword sect. When they got closer, they discovered that the battle sword sect was akin to an immortal palace. Mountain springs and waterfalls flowed down, and there were people chatting and laughing in the pavilions. There were even people practicing their swordsmanship in the training grounds of the ancient mountain. Upon seeing this group of people returning, many in the battle sword sect inclined their heads and glanced over only to see many disciples gathered together. The cultivation bases of the members of the battle sword sect were all at least at the heavenly dipper realm. Even if they were in their 30s or 40s, they still looked young. Hence, it wasn't strange at all. Seventh senior brother is back, and he even brought 2 young men and women with him. Are they the newly recruited disciples? Beneath a waterfall, a group of young men and women stared in the direction of Lin Shuai and the others. A young man clad in white had a look of curiosity on his face. That woman is so beautiful. Does she also want to join our battle sword sect? If that's the case, the title of the number 1 beauty of our battle sword sect would definitely belong to her. The eyes of a young man beside him gleamed as he stared at Qing. Humph. A beautiful young woman beside him coldly snorted. This young woman was tall and had a curvaceous figure. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were bright. She had an oval-shaped face and was extremely beautiful. She glared at the young man beside her as she cursed in a low voice, "Lecherous fellow. Lust nature." The young man casually spoke, not minding it at all as he laughed. What a pity junior sister is so distant from senior brother. If junior sister was willing to marry senior brother would definitely not look at other women. Scram. That young woman ruthlessly glared at him. Beside her, a skinny young man with an ancient sword strapped to his back suddenly spoke. Seventh senior brother accompanied the elders to the battle sword sect for some unknown reason. Now that he has returned, he even brought 2 young men with him. Could it be that this trip was all for the sake of these 2? Our battle sword sect has never set such a precedent before. Indeed, it's strange. Senior brother is here. The young woman beside him spoke. After which, Lin Shuai and the others arrived. The old man in the lead instructed. Lin Shuai, I will leave the arrangements to you. Okay. Lin Shuai nodded. After which, the old man led the group away. Seventh senior brother, you have returned. That young woman stepped out as she smiled at Lin Shuai. Her attitude was completely different from how she treated the young man beside her. Junior sister's heart is blooming with joy upon seeing 7th senior brother's return. How sad. The young man who was scolded as a lecherous fellow earlier sighed. After which, he turned his gaze onto Qing, as he asked, I wonder how I should address this young lady? Qing coldly glanced at him and ignored him, treating him like air. This caused many in the surroundings to have smiles on their faces. The young man also had an awkward expression on his face. You better be more obedient. Lin Shuai glared at him. After which he introduced to the others. This is junior brother Qin Wentian and junior sister Qing. From now on, they are also disciples of the Battle Sword sect. Junior sister Qing doesn't like to talk, so don't disturb her. If there's anything you want to say, just tell junior brother Qin. He will naturally inform junior sister. Qing appeared in the training grounds of Xianqing City because she wanted to protect Qin Wentian. On the way here, Lin Shuai knew that the relationship between the two of them was extraordinary, which was why he gave this instruction. Yes, senior brother. The others all nodded their heads in agreement. Qin Wentian had been observing silently, yet he couldn't help but feel shock in his heart. Lin Shuai was actually only his senior brother? He had initially thought that Lin Shuai's seniority would be a level higher than his. After all, other than the old man, Lin Shuai was the leader of the Battle Sword sect. What he didn't know was that because Lin Shuai was the personal disciple of the Battle Sword sect's sect leader, his status was extraordinary. My name is Yi Lingshuang. Junior brother and junior sister can refer to me as senior sister Yi or senior sister Lingshuang. That female smiled at Qin Wentian and Qing as she introduced herself. Jiang Huai. The skinny man nodded to the two of them. Lu Yin. The lecherous young man also smiled. The others introduced themselves one by one, and Qin Wentian nodded his head in return. Junior brother, this pet is so adorable. Can I take a look? Yi Lingshuang stared at little rascal in Qin Wentian's arms as a bright light flashed in her eyes. She had slain many demonic beasts before, but it was very rare for her to see such an adorable little demonic pet. Okay. Qin Wentian nodded. He loosened his grip, and little rascal leaped into Yi Lingshuang's embrace, causing a smile to appear on Yi Lingshuang's face. The little guy arched against her chest and curled up there, as if he was enjoying it very much. He said in a childish voice, so soft, ah! Yi Lingshuang was instantly petrified. Her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at little rascal in her arms. Qin Wentian's face was filled with black lines. Staring at little rascal in Yi Lingshuang's arms, he felt an impulse to strangle it to death. This bastard really knew how to talk. Cough cough. Lu Yin coughed, staring at little rascal with jealousy in his eyes. After which, he turned to Qin Wentian as a meaningful smile appeared on his face. So it turns out that junior brother is a kindred spirit. Chapter 518. When Qin Wentian heard Lu Yun's words, he wanted nothing more than to find a hole to hide in. He snuck a glance at Yi Lingshuang only to see that this senior apprentice sister of his was also looking at him with a smile that was not a smile. That look of disdain in her eyes made Qin Wentian want to lift his head up and sigh to the heavens. He had just joined the Battle Sword sect, and it seemed like his reputation had already been completely ruined by little rascal. Little rascal, scram back here for me. Qin Wentian glared hatefully at little rascal, only to see little rascal flipping its body over and lazily lying on top of Qin Wentian's ample bosom. Its eyes were narrowed as an expression of intoxication could be seen on its face. Junior brother has taught us well. Yi Lingshuang giggled. Qin Wentian howled in his heart. Even if he jumped into the heavenly river, he wouldn't be able to wash his name clean. Junior brother, junior sister, let me bring you all around the Battle Sword sect. Lin Shuai spoke, helping Qin Wentian out of this predicament. Qin Wentian nodded his head as the few of them soared up into the air. Yi Lingshuang and the rest followed behind them as they soared into the air. The Battle Sword sect has a span of a few hundred miles, and has a total of 3,000 disciples. The ancient peaks of the Battle Sword sect are all connected to each other. The disciples will be staying in wooden houses located in the middle of the mountain peaks. You can choose any wooden house as your residence. Lin Shuai took a step in front of Qin Wentian, as he pointed to a wooden house located in the middle of the mountain walls. The scenery was beautiful and the atmosphere was extremely quiet. Also, there was a certain distance between the wooden houses so that the disciples wouldn't disturb each other when cultivating. The residences are completely separated from the cultivation grounds of the Battle Sword sect. Look over there, that's the training grounds of our Battle Sword sect. Disciples can spar there, and if there's a conflict between disciples, the elders can mediate between them. If there's no way to mediate, Both parties can request for a final battle. Lin Shuai pointed to a location. Over there was a majestic training ground with many disciples gathered below. Qin Wentian made a mental note in his heart. The Battle Sword sect was the sect with the least number of disciples out of the 9 great sects, and their recruitment process was extremely strict. But who would have thought that they would actually have 3,000 disciples? From this, one could see how terrifying a great sect was. As for the other 8 great sects, their disciples should be in the tens of thousands, and all of them were elites. In fact, if one thought about it carefully, this wasn't anything strange at all. The royal sacred region was incomparably vast. There were countless sects and aristocratic clans, as well as the 3 empires and many ancient countries. The population of the 9 great sects was extremely high, and other than the royal sacred sect, the number of geniuses who wished to join the 9 great sects was innumerable. Even if the Battle Sword sect chose only 1 out of 1,000, there would still be several hundred of them. After so many years of accumulation, 3,000 disciples was definitely considered a small number. That place is the Battle Sword platform. When something big happens in the sect, the drums on the Battle Sword platform would shake the heavens, and all the disciples of the Battle Sword sect would immediately gather there. Lin Shuai pointed to a vast area. Qin Wentian committed this to memory and continued following Lin Shuai. Up ahead, 9 ancient mountains appeared, each of them occupying an extremely large area. This is the Cultivation Mountain. There are too many disciples in the Battle Sword sect, and it's naturally impossible for us to teach them all at the same time. According to the different specialties of the disciples, there would be 9 sword sovereigns to guide them. Each of the 9 sword sovereigns would be in charge of a mountain, and there would also be elders and attendants under the sword sovereigns. Senior brother, which mountain are you from? Qin Wentian curiously asked. Senior brother is the personal disciple of the first mountain sword sovereign, Sword Sovereign Ling Tian. Sword Sovereign Ling Tian is also the sect leader of our Battle Sword sect. Yi Lingshuang stared at Qin Wentian as she continued. As for the rest of us, we are also disciples of Sword Sovereign Ling Tian. It's just that we aren't his personal disciples. Our masters are the elders of the first mountain. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. There were 3,000 disciples in the Battle Sword sect. It was naturally impossible for all of them to be personally taught by the 9 sword sovereigns. As the personal disciple of the sect leader, it was no wonder that Lin Shuai had such a transcendent status. Within the 9 mountains, there are library pavilions containing innate techniques, cultivation arts, and ancient records. Disciples of the various mountains are free to browse through them. If we continue forward, that would be the cultivation grounds of the supreme elders of our Battle Sword sect. Don't go there recklessly, Lin Shuai instructed to Qin Wentian. Other than this, within the ancient mountains of the Battle Sword sect, there would be ancient ruins left behind by the ancestors of our Battle Sword sect. You are free to browse through them as you wish. Lin Shuai continued. Also, I want to bring you to an important location. After speaking, Lin Shuai's silhouette turned as Qin Wentian, and the rest followed behind. He cast a puzzled glance at Yi Lingshuang, only to see her, Lu Yun and the rest all had solemn expressions on their faces. It was as though the place Lin Shuai was talking about had an extraordinary significance. Not long after, Lin Shuai brought him to the peak of a mountain. Over here, there were actually many disciples gathered. When they saw Lin Shuai, they all nodded their heads to him and greeted him as senior brother. Lin Shuai was the personal disciple of the sect leader, and his cultivation base had already broken through to celestial phenomenon. He wasn't any weaker compared to some of the attendants in the sect, hence he was naturally respected. Lin Shuai nodded his head lightly. Standing on the mountain peak, the crowd glanced at Qin Wentian and Qing, behind Lin Shuai, feeling bewildered in their hearts. Were these 2 new disciples of the Battle Sword sect? They were actually personally brought here by senior brother Lin Shuai. Qin Wentian's aura was reserved, yet he was extraordinarily handsome. Qing was cold, yet her beauty was unparalleled. Yi Lingshuang was a rare beauty, yet even she paled in comparison to Qin Wentian. This caused the crowd to involuntarily sigh in admiration. These 2 new disciples seemed to be extraordinary. Qin Wentian wasn't in the mood to think too much about it. At this moment, his gaze was directed ahead. Opposite the ancient mountain, there was a thatched hut. This thatched hut seemed ordinary and extremely simple, but its surroundings seemed to be filled with a mysterious power, as though it was the only thing in this world. With this thatched hut here, all other sceneries seemed to lose their splendor. The grass hut deeply attracted Qin Wentian's gaze. The seemingly ordinary grass hut exuded such an extraordinary aura, which was truly shocking. He used his perception to spy on it, but discovered that his perception was blocked by an invisible force, unable to approach the grass hut at all. "Senior brother, what's in the thatched cottage?" Qin Wentian asked curiously. Lin Shuai lightly shook his head. "Nobody knows. Let alone me. Even Master has never entered before. Or to put it more accurately, he can't enter at all." Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He didn't expect the Battle Sword sect to have such a mystical place. This place is the cultivation ground of the founder of the Battle Sword sect. It's rumored that the founder was a sword immortal-like character. Some people speculate that his sword is hidden within the grass hut, while others say that his sword arts are hidden within. Naturally, there are also some who say that there's nothing inside. However, the path leading to the grass hut contains the essence of the founder's cultivation. Lin Shuai's countenance was solemn. Only now did Qin Wentian notice that the height of the grass hut was the same as the mountain. Below them, there was a path leading to the grass hut. At this moment, there were several people attempting to ascend it, yet they had only reached the foot of the mountain. The distance to the grass hut was too far, and there was basically no way for them to ascend it. At this moment, Qin Wentian heard a terrifying sword whistling sound at the top of the mountain path, after which he saw a terrifying sword rainbow slashing through the air, exuding an extremely terrifying might. The entire area seemed to be filled with thunderous booms. Junior sister Hanyu is so powerful, she actually managed to ascend to the 9th step. As expected of the dragon and phoenix of our Battle Sword sect. Many people exclaimed in admiration. Yeah, junior sister Hanyu is a personal disciple of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. Her talent is the highest among the new disciples this year. Those who could join the Battle Sword sect were all outstanding characters. Yet these people were praising junior sister Hanyu unceasingly. Naturally, Qin Wentian had also noticed that the sword rainbow earlier was unleashed by a maiden clad in a fiery phoenix feather robe. This maiden was naturally none other than the junior sister Hanyu they were talking about. This maiden's countenance was as cold as frost and her figure was like fire. Her robes were the color of fire, as though they were weaved from phoenix feathers. Just a single glance at her would cause one to be mesmerized by her heroic bearing. This is junior sister Li Hanyu. She joined the Battle Sword Sovereigness not too long ago, and was accepted as a personal disciple by the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. Her background is also extraordinary. She's a descendant of the Li clan of the Southern Domain, and possesses the bloodline of the Blood Phoenix. Although her cultivation base is only at the peak of the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper, it's easy for her to defeat ordinary cultivators at the peak of the 6th level. She's truly a rare genius. Lin Shuai spoke in a low voice to Qin Wentian, his eyes flashing with admiration. Evidently, he regarded Li Hanyu very highly. There were so many geniuses in the Battle Sword sect. It was already extremely difficult to join the Battle Sword sect, let alone becoming a personal disciple of the 9 Mountain Sword Sovereigns. "Senior brother, who should I become a disciple of?" Qin Wentian asked with some bewilderment in his voice. The 9 Mountain Sword Sovereigns were the 9 factions of the Battle Sword sect. At this moment, he still didn't know which mountain he should join. "Naturally you should join my master, Sword Sovereigness Ling Tian." Lin Shuai smiled. The path up the grass hut is extremely rugged. Ordinary people would find it hard to even take a single step. "Junior brother Qin, do you want to give it a try?" "What's on the path up the grass hut? Why is it so difficult?" Qin Wentian asked. "You'll know after you take a look. The path up the grass hut is a supreme treasure of our Battle Sword sect. Its value isn't inferior to the library of the 9 Mountain Sword Sovereigns. Not only that, it's open to you unconditionally as long as you are able to ascend it. I've heard that there was once a senior in our battle sword sect who managed to ascend the grass hut and reach the peak. After that he became the #1 genius in our battle sword sect. Lin Shuai laughed, his words causing Qin Wentian to be even more curious. After which he nodded his head. I'll give it a try then. Qing'er, do you want to go? I'm not going. Qing'er didn't seem to be too interested as she shook her head. Back then, there was an expert from her clan who passed on many cultivation arts to her. Regardless of cultivation arts or innate techniques, she didn't lack any of them. In fact, she even had many secret arts. The only reason why she joined the battle sword sect was because of Qin Wentian. If not, given the strength of the battle sword sect, it would be impossible for her to follow Qin Wentian in the dark. Hence, she could only follow Qin Wentian. MHM, wait for me here. Qin Wentian nodded his head to Qing'er. After which, his silhouette flickered as he descended from the air. An instant later, he arrived at the bottom of the grass hut and stared at the mountain path ahead. When he inclined his head and stared at the grass hut again, he felt that it was extremely far away, as though it would be impossible for him to cross it. Qin Wentian took a step forward. Instantly, everything changed. In front of him, there was no longer a mountain path, but an ancient path. The grass hut appeared at the end of the ancient path, and in front of Qin Wentian, a mountain rampart appeared. On this mountain rampart, there was an incomparably exquisite diagram inscribed on it. Upon seeing the diagram on the mountain rampart, Qin Wentian was instantly immersed in it. He couldn't help but sigh in admiration. No wonder Lin Shuai said that the value of this place wasn't any lower than the library. This ancient path itself was a treasure trove. Chapter 519. The diagram on the mountain rampart was right before Qin Wentian's eyes. It was extremely vivid and lifelike, with a myriad of transformations. Within it, there seemed to be a great rock soaring through the skies, as fast as lightning, shuttling through the clouds with shocking speed. At this moment, a beam of sword light cascaded down from the skies, stunning the heavens and earth. The great rock soared through the air, yet it was still slower than that sword. As the sword descended, the great rock died. This diagram is the beheading rock diagram. Qin Wentian's heart pounded. He didn't expect that just the first step would cause such a terrifying diagram to appear on the rampart. Although there was only a single sword strike, it contained a myriad of transformations. This was a great Tao of the sword, containing boundless might. If one could successfully cultivate it, they would be able to slay a great rock. Sword chi radiated from Qin Wentian as he unceasingly slashed out with his sword. However, his speed was too slow. Although in the past he already felt that his speed was extremely fast, in front of the mountain rampart, Qin Wentian felt that his speed was like that of an ant. Slow, extremely slow to the extreme. Qin Wentian had a feeling that he would never be able to slash out such a magnificent sword strike. Something's wrong. The first step on the ancient path leading to the grass hut is the mountain rampart. Most probably, there's an intent to comprehend the sword here. If not, why would Li Hanyu take a step forward after slashing out with her sword? She must have comprehended a single sword strike before she could advance. Since she could take 9 steps, how can I not be able to take a single step? Qin Wentian mused. Although Lin Shuai didn't tell him directly, he already understood that the path leading to the grass hut was the path to comprehend the sword. Also, this path was left behind by the founder of the battle sword sect. How could it be easy to comprehend the sword of the founder? How could he not be patient? This diagram is extraordinary, it's majestic and majestic. My current strength is simply insufficient in front of it. I need to create a dreamscape. Qin Wentian mused. After which, he closed his eyes and calmed himself. Activating his cultivation art, an instant later, Qin Wentian stepped into the dreamscape. In the air, the mountain and river diagram was still there. This was something he obtained long ago in the dark forest of Chu. As he grew stronger, he discovered how extraordinary this diagram was. At this moment, the diagram formed a dreamland of mountains and rivers. Qin Wentian stood proudly in the clouds, and in front of him, a great rock soared through the sky. It flew past him like a bolt of lightning, so fast that it was impossible to see it with the naked eye. However, the Qin Wentian in the dream world was no ordinary person. He stood above the clouds and watched as the rock soared through the sky. A beam of sword light descended from the sky and directly slashed the rock. In an instant, the rock died. "I can't see through it," Qin Wentian said calmly. He repeated this scene over and over again as he continued to comprehend this shocking sword. Gradually, Qin Wentian saw a different transformation. This sword was like the wind. No matter how fast the rock was, it couldn't escape the wind. The wind was everywhere, and no matter how fast the rock soared, it had to ride the wind. This sword was hidden within the wind. "I have never comprehended the will of wind. Can I comprehend the sword?" Qin Wentian murmured. He also wielded his sword, but it was one thing to understand, but it was impossible for him to do it. Moreover, he didn't understand the wind. It's impossible for all the disciples in the battle sword sect to be proficient in the mandate of wind. The only way to comprehend the sword is to comprehend it. Qin Wentian closed his eyes and exited the dreamland. Staring at the mountain rampart in front of him, he stretched out his hand and actually touched it. A thought appeared in his mind, and an instant later, a startling beam of sword light shot up into the sky, akin to the howling of a cold wind, tearing apart the heavens and earth. The mountain rampart dissipated. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stepped out. He saw the second mountain rampart, and the second diagram. He saw a giant. This giant's head touched the heavens, trampling the earth. With a single stomp, it could shatter mountains. With a single step, it could sever rivers. With a single palm, it could even shatter the heavens. This scene was extremely shocking. Just as the giant was running, a sword descended from the sky. This sword was a gigantic sword, and it directly slammed into the giant's head. The speed of the sword wasn't fast, but in an instant, the giant's incomparably huge body disintegrated, turning into huge rocks and turning into a mountain range. The strength contained within this sword is far beyond millions and millions of Jin. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He closed his eyes and once again immersed himself in the dreamland, trying to comprehend the might of the gigantic sword. If it's a spear, it would be the same. That's the power of the earth. Qin Wentian mumbled. After which, he placed his palms on the mountain rampart once more. Another beam of sword light appeared as he took another step forward. Behind him, on the mountain peak, the spectators all had looks of amazement on their faces when they saw Qin Wentian taking 2 steps forward. Junior brother is truly powerful. He actually managed to comprehend 2 sword strikes. Lin Shuai stared in the direction of Qin Wentian as he sighed in admiration. It's just 2 sword strikes. Back then, didn't senior brother also easily comprehend the first 7 sword strikes? These 7 shouldn't be too difficult. Yiling Shuang faintly commented. Lin Shuai laughed. But my speed of comprehending the sword strikes is still inferior to junior brother Qin. How many sword strikes do you guys think junior brother Qin can comprehend today? Looking at his speed, his comprehension abilities shouldn't be weak. Maybe he can be like those disciples with high comprehension abilities, comprehending 7 sword strikes in one go. But after the 7th sword strike, it won't be so easy to comprehend any other sword strikes. Yiling Shuang spoke. Lu Yun, who was at the side, also nodded his head. Back then, Li Hanyu comprehended 7 sword strikes in one go. After that, she used a total of 3 days to comprehend the 8th sword strike. As for the 9th sword strike, I heard that she used 7 days to comprehend it. Being able to comprehend the 9th sword strike, Li Hanyu's comprehension abilities must be extremely high. Maybe, she might be able to comprehend the 14th sword strike within a year. Lin Shuai glanced at Li Hanyu's silhouette. This female's talent was extraordinary. She should be able to comprehend the 14th sword strike within a year. He comprehended the 3rd sword strike. How fast? At this moment, Lin Shuai's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Qin Wentian effortlessly comprehended the 3rd sword strike. Maybe, junior brother Qin will not only comprehend 7 sword strikes today. Jiang Huai, how many sword strikes do you think he can comprehend? Yiling Shuang asked the skinny Jiang Huai. Jiang Huai's comprehension abilities were also extremely impressive. I don't know, but he should be able to comprehend the record of 7 sword strikes. Jiang Huai faintly replied. As they were conversing, Qin Wentian had already comprehended the fourth sword strike. Momentarily, the gazes of many were attracted to Qin Wentian. How fast he's already comprehended the fourth sword strike. The record for the seventh sword strike was 2 hours. If this continues on, he should be able to comprehend the seventh sword strike very soon. Someone had a look of amazement on his face. This young man brought by Lin Shuai seemed to be extraordinary. It's already the fifth sword strike. How can he be so fast? The crowd exclaimed in shock. Qin Wentian had already taken 5 steps, causing 5 beams of sword light to appear. This meant that he had already comprehended 5 sword strikes. Awesome! Lin Shuai's eyes gleamed with surprise. The last 2 sword strikes are more difficult. I'm afraid it won't be so easy for him to comprehend them. Someone stated. However, as the sound of that person's voice faded, Qin Wentian had already taken the 6th step. This meant that he had comprehended 6 sword strikes. How can this be? Is this luck? The person who spoke earlier had a depressed look on his face. He had just made a prediction when he was slapped in the face. This caused many to look at him in disdain. He's going to break the record. Someone spoke. I don't believe that he can comprehend this sword strike so quickly. That person spoke again. And as expected, this time around, Qin Wentian paused for a period of time, standing there and comprehending. Haha, as expected, he can't do it anymore. That person laughed. He glanced at the people around him, only to see that the people around him all had strange expressions on their faces. After that, he turned his head back only to see a resplendent beam of light flashing past. Qin Wentian had already taken the 7th step. At the instant he took the 7th step, Qin Wentian's body was enveloped by a dazzling radiance. It was as though he was wearing a halo of light, causing others to admire him. In the air above his head, the whistling of swords could be heard unceasingly. He broke the record. The crowd stared at Qin Wentian as shock filled their hearts. Who would have thought that a new disciple would be able to break the record of comprehending the first 7 sword strikes? Lin Shuai had a smile on his face. No wonder the martial ancestor wanted them to bring Qin Wentian over. Seems like the martial ancestor could already tell that Qin Wentian was extraordinary. Their efforts in coming to the Xian King city weren't in vain. So what if he broke the record? I'm afraid he won't be able to comprehend the 8th sword strike. Someone spoke, unconvinced. Who would have thought that a new disciple would actually break the record? Who knows? Maybe there will be a good show to watch. There were also people who were filled with admiration as they laughed. From afar, several silhouettes sped over. Evidently, they were startled by the whistling of swords and knew that someone from the sword hut had broken the record. The 8th sword strike isn't so easy to comprehend. Yi Lingshuang faintly spoke. She glanced at little rascal in her embrace, whose eyes were wide open as he stared at Qin Wentian. She couldn't help but curse in her heart. If that lecherous fellow like Lu Yun really had such talent, then the heavens really didn't have eyes. Not only that, her senior brother Lin Shuai still regarded him so highly. If Qin Wentian knew that he was framed by little rascal, and was labeled as a lecherous fellow, he would definitely be so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Senior sister Yi, why is he lecherous? Did he take advantage of you? Someone teased. Momentarily, Yi Lingshuang's countenance turned cold as she swept her gaze over to that person. Are you looking for a beating? I don't dare. That person laughed. However, very swiftly after, there were many rumors about Qin Wentian, a new disciple of the battle sword sect, breaking the record of comprehending the first 7 sword strikes. Not only that, he was also a lecherous fellow who dared to disrespect Yi Lingshuang the moment he joined the battle sword sect. The pitiful Qin Wentian didn't even know that his reputation had already been ruined. At this moment, he came before another diagram on the mountain rampart. This time around, it was still the image of a great rock soaring through the 9 heavens, and it was still a sword strike. However, this sword strike was different from the first one. As the sword light descended, Qin Wentian could see several streams of sword light lacerating everything in their path. In an instant, the great rock was actually shattered into pieces. How is this possible? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. How could the will of the mandate of wind reach such a level? Qin Wentian was stunned. He once again entered the dreamscape to comprehend. That majestic aura unceasingly manifested before him. Yet he discovered that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't recreate the scene in the outside world. He had no idea how that sword strike was born, hence he was unable to recreate it. I must be able to find the reason. Qin Wentian scrutinized the sword strike on the mountain rampart. That sword that descended along with the wind seemed to have manifested several streams of wind energy that enveloped the great rock. As the sword slashed down, the great rock was instantly shattered into pieces. It was extremely hard to tell what kind of energy was used to achieve this. Qin Wentian's countenance changed unceasingly as he sank into contemplation. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours passed. This caused many in the crowd to laugh. It seemed like Qin Wentian had no way to comprehend this sword strike. How can the 8th sword strike be so easily comprehended? Yi Lingshuang faintly stated. The 8th sword strike was extremely difficult. I understand. At this moment, a bolt of lightning flashed through Qin Wentian's mind as a hint of comprehension appeared in his mind. It was naturally impossible to fuse a single mandate with a sword. But what if there was another type of mandate that could be fused? This is the power born from the fusion of wind and rain. Qin Wentian's eyes shone with a resplendent light. He stretched out his hand and placed it on the mountain rampart as a diagram appeared in his mind. Instantly, the wind and rain howled as the heavens and earth changed color. Qin Wentian took the 8th step. And in that instant, the countenances of everyone on the mountain peak changed as their eyes gleamed with sharpness. Comprehending the 8th sword strike. Chapter 520. The 8th sword strike comprehend. On the mountain peak, countless gazes turned to that unfamiliar young man. The radiance radiating from this young man seemed to have stolen away Li Hanyu's radiance. Li Hanyu comprehending the 9th sword strike was already considered not bad. However, the first time this young man comprehended the 8th sword strike, he broke the record of the first 7 sword strikes. And now he even comprehended the 8th sword strike in such a short period of time. How inconceivable! Yi Lingshuang's beautiful eyes flickered. Earlier, she said that the 8th sword strike wouldn't be so easy to comprehend. After which, Qin Wentian actually comprehended it, causing her to be dumbfounded. She cursed in a low voice. Comprehending swords has nothing to do with one's cultivation base. I didn't expect this lecherous fellow to have such capabilities. To actually be able to comprehend the 8th sword strike in such a short period of time. Senior, could it be that you secretly told him the secret to comprehending swords? The path of comprehending swords requires one to comprehend it on their own. Even if I told him, it's useless if he didn't comprehend it himself. Lin Shuai explained. Junior sister, don't have any bad opinions about junior brother Qin. After which, he shook his head with a bitter smile. No matter how he looked at it, Qin Wentian didn't seem like a lecherous fellow. Instead, he was tricked by his pet. The others were also discussing. Qin Wentian had already comprehended the 8th sword strike. In that case, would he be able to comprehend the 9th sword strike today? After the 7th sword strike, each sword strike represented a different path. The 8th to 14th sword strikes were all exceedingly difficult to comprehend. Maybe luck played a role in this sword strike. If he can comprehend another sword strike, I'll believe that his comprehension abilities are truly extraordinary. Someone stated, causing many to agree. If he can comprehend the 9th sword strike, he would be able to catch up to junior sister Li. Right now, Qin Wentian was only a step behind Li Hanyu. Before his eyes, another diagram appeared. This diagram was extremely similar to the one he comprehended earlier. A great rock soared through the skies, and with a single sword strike, the great rock perished. This extremely similar sword strike caused Qin Wentian to furrow his brows. It's almost the same as the one earlier. Qin Wentian mused. However, he understood that it was impossible for these 2 swords to be exactly the same. They walked different paths, yet they achieved the same effect. Raising his head, Qin Wentian looked at the thatched cottage in front of him. The cottage was still faintly discernible, as if it was very far away. What sort of character was the founder of the battle sword sect? This is just the 9th sword strike, yet it's already so profound. The wills of his mandates fused together, creating a brand new path of cultivation. Each and every sword strike represents a different path. This ancient path is like a path leading to the heavens. At this moment, Qin Wentian's heart was filled with reverence. He guessed that the founder of the Battle Sword sect must have reached an unimaginable realm. This ancient path was one that no one in the entire Battle Sword sect could complete, not even the sword sovereigns of the Nine Mountains. Once, there was an ancestor of the Battle Sword sect who almost completed the ancient path, becoming invincible in the Battle Sword sect. From this, one could see how powerful the founder was. Most probably, he was in existence like a sword immortal, able to dominate the heavens with his sword. As he thought of this, Qin Wentian scrutinized this sword strike in detail. 2 hours later, he finally discovered that there was a slight difference between this sword strike and the previous one. That sword strike earlier, when the sword descended, the wind was akin to silk threads, carrying with it an unparalleled might, directly slashing the great rock into pieces. At that instant, Qin Wentian thought of the scene of wind and rain intersecting with each other. The cold wind mixed with the torrential downpour, and if it was magnified infinitely, coupled with the might of the sword, it would be possible to create a scene where the great rock was slain. Hence, he was able to comprehend that sword strike earlier. However, this sword strike was slightly different. Although the sword might was the same, at the instant the sword landed, there was a surge of destructive energy that directly caused the great rock's body to explode, completely destroying it. Are all the wills of mandates in the world able to fuse together? Qin Wentian was thinking that the founder left behind the sword comprehension grass hut, because he wanted to tell the later generations about the ancient path leading to the heavens, telling them about the path of cultivation in the future. All wills of mandates were able to fuse together with everything else. And after fusing together, although the might would be even more terrifying, it would be extremely hard to find the shadow of the previous mandates. What is a constellation? Is it formed from the fusion of wills of mandates? Qin Wentian mused. If it was a celestial phenomenon ascendant trying to comprehend this sword strike, it would definitely be easier because their understanding of the martial Tao would be deeper. Qin Wentian placed his hand on the mountain rampart. Instantly, a beam of sword light shot up to the skies, causing the mountain rampart to dissipate. Qin Wentian mumbled. This sword strike contains the essence of wind and thunder within it. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian stepped out. The ninth sword strike comprehended. Qin Wentian was thinking that the fusion of wind and thunder would form a terrifying energy. It was just that the sword had become a medium to unleash their might. Because back then, the founder was a sword immortal. He used the sword as a medium. My current halberd arts, when I strike out with my halberd, wouldn't that be the same as the pulsation of energy? Faintly, there's also a trace of the will of the mandate of great earth within, granting me an even more terrifying destructive might. This path of comprehending swords is the path I will walk on in the future. Qin Wentian sighed. The sword comprehension grass hut left behind by the founder didn't have any cultivation arts, nor innate techniques. Yet it was a path leading to the great Tao. If you cultivate the sword, using the sword as a medium, that would be the path of a sword immortal. The founder of the Battle Sword sect could be said to have put in a lot of effort. This sword comprehension grass hut was a supreme treasure, allowing the disciples to comprehend it themselves instead of being taught by others. This way, the disciples would be able to comprehend it even more deeply. Qin Wentian had already completed the ninth step. Beside him, there was another silhouette. This silhouette was an absolute beauty clad in robes made of phoenix feathers, exuding a heroic aura, causing people to want to stare up at her. This person was none other than Li Hanyu. Li Hanyu turned her gaze over, glancing at Qin Wentian beside her as a bright light flashed in her eyes. There was actually someone who had comprehended the ninth sword strike just like her. Not only that, this person was also very young. She had just joined the sect not long ago, and there were many disciples in the Battle Sword sect that she didn't recognize. In addition, she had no interest in knowing them. Hence, she didn't know that Qin Wentian had just joined the sect. She merely asked, "Have you comprehended the ninth sword strike before?" Her voice was gentle yet filled with sharpness, giving off a sense of dominance. At this moment, Qin Wentian also glanced at Li Hanyu. On the way here, he had also met a few people, but he didn't interact with them. This Li Hanyu exuded a domineering aura and an outstanding countenance. Even he couldn't help but to silently praise her. If it wasn't for Qingqing and Qing, or being by his side, he would most probably be in awe of her beauty as well. Humph. Upon seeing Qin Wentian sizing her up, Li Hanyu coldly snorted, as hints of disdain could be seen in her eyes. These young men were all like this. They all had the same expression whenever they saw her. I haven't. Qin Wentian casually replied. After which he turned his gaze away, as calm as ever. His words caused a cold smile to appear in Li Hanyu's eyes. This person was truly impressive. He managed to instantly change his expression back to normal when he sensed her dissatisfaction, concealing it extremely well. However, these young men had used all sorts of methods to get close to her. How could they hide such insignificant tricks from her? The difficulty of this sword strike isn't something you can comprehend. Li Hanyu faintly spoke, exuding an air of arrogance. Qin Wentian frowned, but soon after his brows relaxed. He ignored her and continued to stare at the diagram on the mountain rampart. A great rock soaring through the skies, breaking it with a single sword strike. This diagram was actually the exact same as the first sword strike. There were no flaws at all. In fact, compared to the 8th sword strike, this sword strike was even more similar to the first sword strike, causing him to feel as though he had returned to the time when he comprehended the first sword strike, breaking it with a single sword strike, like the wind. But how could it be exactly the same? This time around, Qin Wentian paused for 4 hours, and was still unable to comprehend the 9th sword strike. This caused the spectators on the mountain peak to silently sigh. As expected, the difficulty of comprehending the 10th sword strike was even greater. Qin Wentian was able to comprehend the 9th sword strike. This had already caused many to be filled with admiration. His comprehension abilities must be extremely high. But for the 10th sword strike, even Li Hanyu couldn't comprehend it. Most probably, it would be extremely difficult for him to do so as well. Qin Wentian tried a few times, but all his attempts ended in failure. If he didn't comprehend it, his thoughts would fail and he wouldn't be able to comprehend the 10th sword strike. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned dark and bright again. A day had already passed, yet Qin Wentian and Li Hanyu were still standing there, unmoving. Qin Wentian carefully thought back to the first 9 sword strikes he comprehended, and even peeked at the 10th sword strike in his dreamscape. He saw it clearly, over and over again. Finally, at this moment, a hint of a smile appeared in Qin Wentian's eyes as he spoke in a low voice. I understand now. Li Hanyu's gaze flickered as she stared at Qin Wentian. She coldly laughed, boasting shamelessly. The difficulty of this sword strike was something she had a deep understanding of. It was simply too difficult to comprehend. Qin Wentian glanced at her as he smiled, causing people to feel as though they were bathing in the spring breeze. After which, he placed his palms on the mountain wall and communicated with his thoughts. In an instant, a resplendent light flashed as a sword strike pierced through the heavens. The 10th sword strike was comprehended. Qin Wentian took a step forward, vanishing from Li Hanyu's sight. How is this possible? Li Hanyu had a look of astonishment on her face. She hadn't even comprehended the 10th sword strike, yet someone had already comprehended it before her. Thinking back to the smile on Qin Wentian's face when he left, Li Hanyu mused. Could it be that this young man is extremely scheming? He had clearly comprehended the 10th sword strike before, but now he's intentionally doing this to attract my attention, wanting me to look at him in a different light? Li Hanyu didn't think too much about it. She continued staring at the mountain wall. No matter what, Qin Wentian had succeeded in comprehending the 10th sword strike. How could she allow herself to be trapped here forever? The spectators on the mountain peak couldn't help but to exclaim in admiration when they saw Qin Wentian comprehending the 10th sword strike. Right now, there was no longer anyone who doubted Qin Wentian's comprehension abilities. He arrived after Li Hanyu, yet he was the first to comprehend the 10th sword strike. Qin Wentian silently sighed in his heart. The 10th sword strike was indeed extremely difficult to comprehend. It was exactly the same as the 8th sword strike, both containing the mandate of wind and rain. It was simply unimaginable. Every type of mandate has different transformations. For wind, the first mandate is the speed of wind, while the second mandate is the lacerating wind. After a mandate reaches the perfection boundary, there would be many transformations, allowing it to fuse with other mandates, resulting in different transformations. Qin Wentian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If two people cultivated the same mandates and fused them together, there was a possibility that their paths would be different. Just like the 8th and 10th sword strikes. The path ahead is still very long. Qin Wentian sighed deeply. Right now, he hadn't even comprehended a single second-level mandate to the perfection boundary, let alone fusing them together. Not only that, there was a possibility that his future path would require him to fuse multiple mandates together. Even he had no way to predict where he would go in the future. This 10th sword strike caused Qin Wentian to have some sort of comprehension. Next, within 3 days he consecutively comprehended 4 sword strikes, causing a terrifying storm of swords to arise on the mountain path of the grass hut. Qin Wentian broke another record, causing the entire gorge to be filled with towering sword might. The spectators stared at the young man who was bathed in the radiance of the sword, incomparably resplendent. In fact, it was as though there were countless pairs of eyes in the skies watching everything that happened below. Qin Wentian, in 5 days, comprehended 14 sword strikes. Chapter 521. 14 sword strikes. Many people on the mountain peak were stunned. Who was this young man exactly? He actually managed to comprehend 14 sword strikes in a short span of 5 days. And his cultivation base wasn't that strong. Yi Lingshuang was completely speechless now, staring at the silhouette of Qin Wentian. Her lips twitched as she glared at Little Rascal in her arms. Little Rascal's eyes were wide open as it stared ahead. How awesome! Awesome, you little lecher! Yi Lingshuang smacked Little Rascal on its head, causing Little Rascal to glare at her in dissatisfaction. What are you looking at? Do you think you can rebel against me? Yi Lingshuang spoke in disdain. You dare to bully me? Little Rascal glared at Yi Lingshuang with a baleful look on its face, causing a look of satisfaction to appear on Yi Lingshuang's face. Little Rascal, do you think you can rebel against me? But in the next instant, her expression completely vanished as her face turned red. She stared fixedly at Little Rascal in her arms only to see Little Rascal glaring at her angrily, as its little claws actually reached out to grab her. You! Yi Lingshuang screamed in agony. The gazes of the spectators all turned to her. Yi Lingshuang's reaction was also extremely fast. She immediately hugged Little Rascal tightly, not allowing others to see this embarrassing scene. Junior sister, what's wrong? Lu Yan curiously stared at Yi Lingshuang as he asked. Nothing. Yi Lingshuang's face was slightly red, causing her beauty to be even more alluring. She shook her head unceasingly, but in her heart, she hated Qin Wentian to the core. Qin Wentian was actually a lecher who was so adorable, simply bewitching the hearts of others. Lu Yan was somewhat bewildered. He stared at Yi Lingshuang's chest only to see Little Rascal doing his best to squeeze out. An innocent look could be seen in its eyes. What are you looking at? Yi Lingshuang angrily roared, causing Lu Yan to shiver. He hurriedly shifted his gaze away, pretending that nothing had happened. He then spoke in a low voice. Junior brother Qin is truly awesome. He actually managed to comprehend 14 sword strikes. Upon hearing Lu Yan's nonsense, Yi Lingshuang gritted her teeth. Seems like the two of them were birds of the same feather. Junior brother Qin is indeed awesome. However, I'm afraid he has no way to comprehend the 15th sword strike. In our battle sword sect, there hasn't been anyone who could comprehend it before. Lin Shui spoke. Only then did Yi Lingshuang stop speaking. She turned her gaze to Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian arrived before another mountain rampart. There was a diagram on it as well. Violent ancient demons were howling madly, sweeping through the heavens and earth, wanting to devour everything, annihilating all lives. These ancient demons had evil dragons and evil phoenixes, causing the lives of the living to be plunged into misery and suffering. However, at this moment, a sword slashed out, landing right in the center of the mountain rampart. In an instant, with the sword as the center, everything was annihilated. Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently. The might of this sword strike was simply too terrifying. As the sword descended, everything was destroyed. This time around he couldn't see any will of mandates contained within. He could only feel the destructive might of the sword strike. Is this the sublimation of the fusion of the wills of mandates? Qin Wentian murmured, sighing in his heart. He had no idea what this sword strike was, he couldn't see through it at all. For the previous 14 sword strikes, he could sense the existence of the will of mandates. But for this sword strike he couldn't sense it at all. Maybe this is the true perfect fusion of the wills of mandates, giving birth to a brand new type of power, a truly terrifying power. Qin Wentian murmured. But even so, his eyes flickered with determination. He wanted to comprehend this sword strike, and see through the profoundness within. Closing his eyes, he forgot everything. In his dreamscape, there was only this sword strike. For the sake of comprehending this sword strike, Qin Wentian didn't rest for 7 days. But after 7 days, he could only bitterly smile and shake his head, knowing that he was powerless. Qin Wentian's personality was stubborn. No matter what he did, he would always be like this. Back then, he dared to enter the Pill Emperor Hall alone. This was a testament to his character. However, it wasn't that he didn't know his limits. He couldn't see through the 15th sword strike at all. It was impossible for him to comprehend it. His cultivation base was still insufficient, at least for now. Since this was the case, he could only give up. Turning around, Qin Wentian calmly walked back. He had no idea that he had broken 2 records. His countenance was extremely calm. Although his cultivation base didn't increase, he could faintly see the path ahead of him. Li Hanyu was still trying to comprehend the 9th sword strike. At this moment, a hint of comprehension flashed in her eyes as a smile appeared on her face. This sword strike was truly marvelous, but in the end it was still comprehended by her. However, at this moment, a silhouette appeared beside her. Li Hanyu stared at the returning Qin Wentian as she coldly laughed. Are you unable to comprehend any more sword strikes? Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head. He didn't say anything. Li Hanyu's countenance was filled with an innate arrogance. Most probably, her status was extraordinary, but this had nothing to do with him. Li Hanyu placed her palms on the illusory mountain rampart in front of her as a complacent expression appeared on her face. She stepped out, comprehending the 10th sword strike. Qin Wentian lightly shook his head as he left the grass hut. After which he stared in the air, only to see that there were many silhouettes staring at him, causing Qin Wentian to feel bewildered. It seemed like there were many more people here compared to when he first entered the grass hut. Not only that, their gazes were all on him. His silhouette flickered as Qin Wentian soared through the air, arriving beside Lin Shuai as he asked, "Senior brother, what's wrong? You consecutively broke records, yet you're asking me what's wrong?" Lin Shuai laughed. Qin Wentian froze for a moment before a bitter smile appeared on his face. Seems like his comprehension speed was too fast, causing such a commotion. "I'll return this little lecture to you." Yi Lingshuang tossed little rascal over to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stared at her in bewilderment, only to see Yi Lingshuang glaring fiercely at him. "You have an innocent look in your eyes. To be able to nurture such a little lecher, I'm sure you're not a good person." Qin Wentian's face was filled with black lines as he stared at little rascal. What did this fellow do to attract such a strong resentment from Yi Lingshuang? Haha, junior brother Qin, junior sister Lingshuang's words are always straightforward. Don't mind her, let's interact more in the future. I heard that you just arrived in the southern domain, so I'm afraid you don't know much about this place yet. If there's an opportunity, senior brother here will bring you around. Lu Yin shot a knowing look at Qin Wentian as he smiled. The fairies of the Neon Moon Inn and Lakeside Lodge are all extremely charming and talented. Junior brother, if there's an opportunity, you must definitely go and take a look. Yi Lingshuang glared at Lu Yun, while Qin Wentian had an awkward smile on his face. However, a voice drifted over from the air. "You bastard, you're here to lead your junior brother astray again." As the sound of the voice faded, an old man appeared in the air. This man had a smile on his face, exuding an extremely amiable aura. He stared at Qin Wentian and laughed. "Little fellow, I'm Lu Yun's master. Are you interested in becoming my disciple? How can a disciple taught by you have any future prospects? Little fellow, follow me." A black-robed silhouette appeared, standing in the air. This person exuded an imposing aura even without being angry, exuding a powerful aura. The experts on this mountain are as common as the clouds. Why is there a need to snatch people away? Just follow me. Another expert appeared, causing many to be stunned. After which, another 5 to 6 people appeared. All of them were elder-level characters of the Battle Sword sect. All of them wanted to become Qin Wentian's master, causing many to be filled with envy. Such treatment was extremely rare. Han Yu is this seat's disciple, and has already comprehended 10 sword strikes. You were able to comprehend 14 within 5 days. From this, one can see that your comprehension abilities are extremely high. Even if you are lacking in other areas, this seat will still help you catch up to others. If your performance is outstanding, this seat will personally guide you. From afar, an ethereal voice drifted over, causing everyone to be startled. Those elder-level characters all had bitter smiles on their faces. The Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness actually spoke. Most probably, the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness was paying attention to Li Hanyu and discovered that Qin Wentian had comprehended the sword strikes. The Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness was a female, yet the arrogance in her voice was shocking. Although Qin Wentian hadn't seen her in person, he knew that the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness was an extraordinary character. Just a single voice was enough to cause the entire mountain to fall silent. Li Hanyu's silhouette flickered as she stepped out from the grass hut. Her countenance changed. This was the voice of her master. Her master was actually inviting someone to join her sect? Turning her gaze over, a strange light flickered in her eyes when she saw Qin Wentian. Back then, she had taken the initiative to join the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness, and because of her outstanding performance, she was accepted as a personal disciple. "Junior brother, it's the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness." Lu Yun's expression turned solemn as he reminded. From the seriousness in his voice, one could tell that the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness was extremely powerful. Qin Wentian glanced in the direction of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness as he replied, "Many thanks for Senior's kindness, but Junior has yet to make up his mind." As the sound of his voice faded, the crowd fell into silence. Never would they have imagined that Qin Wentian would directly reject her. All of them stared at him in bewilderment. As expected of someone who joined the Battle Sword sect, he had character to actually reject the invitation of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. Li Hanyu's eyes flashed with coldness, feeling indignant in her heart. She had gone through untold hardships to become the personal disciple of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness, and now, the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness personally invited her. Yet she was actually rejected. Rejected, a towering might enveloped the heavens and earth. Evidently, the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness also didn't expect that Qin Wentian would reject her. "Very good." A voice rang out, causing the entire space to tremble. "It's good to have character, but you have to weigh your own weight and conduct yourself well." As the sound of that voice faded, the might of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness vanished. What sort of character was the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness? It was already extremely rare for her to take the initiative to invite Qin Wentian. But given her status, she naturally wouldn't go so far as to make things difficult for Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's countenance was exceedingly calm. Just from the tone of her voice, he could tell that the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness was extremely domineering. Naturally, she had the qualifications to do so. After all, she was an elite adept of a generation, the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. However, the domineering tone of her voice made Qin Wentian extremely unhappy. Since he didn't like it, he would reject it. There was nothing strange about this. This was just like what Lin Shuai had said, when doing things, follow your heart. Yiling Shuang also had a new level of respect for Qin Wentian. Not everyone would have such courage and daring to reject the invitation of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. Lin Shuai had a smile on his face, as a hint of admiration could be seen on his face. His martial ancestor didn't personally act against Qin Wentian, choosing to borrow the strength of the battle sword sect instead. Could it be that Qin Wentian had also rejected him before? However, this thought only flashed past his mind for an instant. He didn't dare to think too much about it. Chapter 522. After Qin Wentian rejected the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereignness, he naturally understood how high the prestige of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereignness was. Shaking his head, he turned to Lin Shuai. "Senior brother, let me find a place to stay first." Qin Wentian spoke. "I'm sure. You and junior sister Qing can choose a place to stay first. After that, you can follow me to the first mountain." Lin Shuai had a smile on his face. Since he had already brought Qin Wentian here, he should greet his master first. After all, Qin Wentian was someone his master wanted. Sure. Qin Wentian had no objections. The few of them then soared into the air. Li Hanyu stepped out and landed on the mountain peak. Instantly, several extraordinary young men appeared beside her. For a moment, Li Hanyu was like the moon surrounded by stars. How many swords did this person comprehend? Li Hanyu asked. "Junior sister, this person just joined the sect and he managed to comprehend 14 swords within 5 days. A person spoke. Momentarily, Li Hanyu's expression froze as the pride in her heart suffered a heavy blow. Right now, even she had only comprehended 10 swords. "Junior sister, there's no need to worry. Comprehending swords is related to one's luck and comprehension ability. It doesn't represent one's talent." That person consoled. Li Hanyu nodded her head lightly. "Don't worry, Li Hanyu. I'm not someone who would belittle myself. But since this person was able to comprehend 14 swords, he can already be considered extraordinary. I wonder how high his combat prowess and talent are exactly." Qin Wentian and Qing first found a cultivation paradise on the first mountain below Sword Sovereign Ling Tian. The distance between the two cultivation paradises wasn't too far. It was quiet and beautiful. After that, they came before an ancient mountain peak. There was a winding ancient path leading to the top of the mountain, resembling a stairway to the heavens. Beside the path, there was a waterfall, splashing water everywhere. This place truly resembled a paradise in the mortal world. Qing and Little Rascal didn't come with them. Qin Wentian followed Lin Shuai and the others here. Inclining his head, he stared at the heavenly stairway of the ancient mountain. Qin Wentian ascended the stairway step by step. Lin Shuai and the others all had expressions of respect on their faces. At the edge of the waterfall, there were many guards with ancient swords on their backs. When they saw Lin Shuai and the others, they would nod their heads slightly. An instant later, only Lin Shuai could continue ascending. Yi Lingshuang and the others remained at the waist of the stairway. This was the place where the Sword Sovereign taught his disciples. Without their orders, no one was allowed to ascend. However, Lin Shuai actually brought Qin Wentian up, causing strange expressions to appear on the faces of Yi Lingshuang and the others. Senior brother Lin Shuai actually directly brought Qin Wentian to meet with the sect leader. What was the background of this Qin Wentian? Junior brother is back. When Qin Wentian and Lin Shuai arrived at the entrance of the heavenly stairway, they saw a maiden clad in white walking out. This maiden had a neat and tidy appearance, and although she couldn't be considered very beautiful, her facial features were delicate and dignified, giving off a faint sense of majesty. "This is my 6th senior sister, Cangyu." Lin Shuai introduced. "Senior sister." Qin Wentian called out. Most probably, this maiden was also a disciple under the Sword Sovereign. Such a young celestial phenomenon ascendant would definitely be a character at the peak of Grand Xia. The world outside was truly powerful. "Junior brother Wentian, Master is already waiting for you." The white-robed maiden smiled at Qin Wentian. Her smile caused people to feel extremely comfortable, as though it was made by nature itself. Qin Wentian felt somewhat bewildered. The sect leader of the Battle Sword sect was personally waiting for him? With bewilderment in his heart, he followed the white-robed maiden into the great hall. There were several disciples of the Battle Sword sect here, and as for the front, there was a person casually standing there, akin to a supreme sword. Although he didn't exude any aura, he gave off a terrifying pressure to Qin Wentian, causing him to feel as though it was extremely difficult to take a single step forward. Junior pays my respects to the sect leader. Qin Wentian could guess that this person was none other than the sect leader of the Battle Sword sect, Sword Sovereign Ling Tian. I've already heard about you from them. Release your martial soul and will of mandates for me to see. Sword Sovereign Ling Tian smiled as he stared at Qin Wentian. Although he didn't exude any aura, Qin Wentian was still able to calmly face the pressure emanating from him. This could already be considered rare. At the instant the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian felt all the pressure on him vanishing. It was as though the person standing in front of him was an extremely ordinary mortal, able to retract and retract as I please. Qin Wentian knew that Sword Sovereign Ling Tian's cultivation had already reached another level. Now that he was in a place like the Battle Sword sect, it was no longer something Gran Xia could compare to. He didn't have too many misgivings and released his astral souls and will of mandates at the same time. The resplendent astral souls illuminated the entire great hall. The flickering astral souls were so blinding that they could pierce the eyes of those who looked at them. Sword Sovereign Ling Tian's eyes abruptly erupted with a resplendent light. Even with his state of heart, he actually couldn't control his aura at this instant, causing the entire great hall to be filled with a stifling pressure, albeit only for an instant. Enough. The light in Sword Sovereign Ling Tian's eyes gradually retracted, yet his heart trembled. As the sect leader of the Battle Sword sect, how many geniuses had he seen before? He had even met some heaven-defying geniuses who intentionally delayed their cultivation to increase their perception, allowing them to condense an astral soul from the fifth heavenly layer when they condensed their second astral soul. However, this was the first time he met someone who condensed an astral soul from the fifth heavenly layer as their first astral soul. Not only that, he heard that Qin Wentian came from the desolate and desolate land of Gran Xia. This was simply unimaginable. Lin Shuai, Song Yu and the rest were all stunned as their hearts pounded. How strong was the perception of this junior brother of theirs? Force Dream Demon Sword. The attacking power of your mandates should be extremely strong. If you use this combination well, your attacks would definitely be at the peak. At that instant, Sword Sovereign Ling Tian had already sensed Qin Wentian's mandates. Force, Demon, and Sword, all of them had the attribute of attack. Dream, on the other hand, had the attribute of bewilderment. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly, but he didn't reply. Force, Demon, and Sword can allow your attacks to unceasingly multiply, allowing you to walk towards the limit. Firstly, you have to reach the perfection boundary of your mandates. Secondly, you can continue to increase the strength of your fleshly body. The strength of your fleshly body is the foundation. Once your foundation is raised, when you use your mandates to multiply your attacks, the effects would be even more obvious. Sword Sovereign Ling Tian explained. Qin Wentian naturally understood this logic. If his physical strength grew stronger, his mandate of force and mandate of demon would be able to multiply his attacks unceasingly, and the effects would be even more terrifying. However, in the past, when his cultivation base was raised, his fleshly body would also be strengthened. The Fiend Transformation art had also strengthened his physique, but it was already extremely difficult to raise his foundation. In addition, you've already been to the grass hut. You should know that even if it's just a simple fusion of mandates, there would still be unfathomable effects. Sword Sovereign Ling Tian spoke to Qin Wentian. Junior has already tried it before. When I infused different mandates into my halberd arts, the might of my attacks would indeed be much stronger. Although this fusion is only at the simplest level. Qin Wentian replied. From the 15th sword strike onwards, only then would one truly enter a deeper level of fusion. And right now, he had only comprehended the 1st to the 7th sword strike. The sword was merely a vessel. No wonder you can comprehend the 14th sword strike. However, don't stray into the wrong path. Junior brother, the boulders below weigh over 10,000 jin. You have to move them all to the other side of the ravine before moving them back. As for those ancient trees, you have to use an axe and chop down 100 of them before you can move them out. Lin Shuai explained. How difficult can that be? Qin Wentian laughed. Yi Lingshuang, who was behind him, had a strange expression on her face. In that case, you can leave now. Lin Shuai smiled. Right. Qin Wentian nodded. Stepping out, he flew towards the ravine. However, when he arrived in the airspace above the ravine, Qin Wentian's countenance abruptly changed. A terrifying pressure bore down on him, causing his body to plummet downwards. How heavy! Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. With a thunderous boom, his body directly slammed into the ground. Even his legs found it hard to stand straight, and he felt as though his entire body was falling apart. His entire body felt extremely uncomfortable, and his internal organs felt as though they were collapsing. Junior brother Qin, cultivate well. Lin Shuai smiled. After speaking, he turned and departed. Yi Lingshuang had a complacent expression on her face, while Ling Yun looked at Qin Wentian with sympathy. Enjoy yourself, and don't forget to move the boulders and chop down the trees. How can it be so terrifying? Qin Wentian straightened his back. He only felt an extremely powerful force acting on his entire body. Even the astral energy in his body couldn't circulate smoothly. He suddenly thought of something. When a type of energy reached its limit, it would undergo a qualitative change. This gravity domain had reached its limit. Boom. With every step he took, the earth rumbled. Qin Wentian glanced at the gigantic boulders. Before glancing at the ancient trees, he felt an impulse to cry. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.